All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the official Valsalia Out of Placers List You're Going Made It comic art whatever Q&A. Today is August the 5th, 2022, and we're going to have a nice, chill, cool stream. And for anybody who is wanting to text, we're going to be taking questions in the channel that's located right above this one. It says Val and a text. It should have been Val Q&A, but it's fine.
That works.
Yeah, don't know how long this is going to go on for. Just until we're kind of tired, I guess. We'll see. But
yeah, I think it'll be pretty obvious when we're all questioned out.
All right. So, very briefly, Val, because there are people here, to be clear, there are people here who are normally in the server. Can I have you do a brief introduction of yourself?
Absolutely. I go by Valsalia, and long story behind that name. But yeah, in general, I'm the guy who does pretty much every part, except for these days, the coloring of the Out of Placers and Lusty Argonian Mated comic. I still can't believe I'm doing that. But yeah, Rapti here is pretty much my main colorist, I'd say, although that's Captain Loafpoke, known by a few names, has also gone on the team lately, and been getting us a lot of good stuff done overall. So, I'm just here to, even if you don't have necessarily a question and there's time, you just want to bring up something, see what my thoughts are about it. I'm just here and I'm up for whatever, really.
Most excellent. There may have been some clashing of silverware as I'm getting this worked out. Oh God, how dare I eat? No, for myself, I'm Rapti. I've been working on the comic for about 4 years now, I think. Started coloring around page 70 of the of the Oops comic, page 17 of Lamb. And it's been a fantastic journey working with Val and working with you all. Everyone here is an amazing community. I'm very supportive, and I mean, you guys are y'all pretty much the best.
Totally.
Currently, I am still main colorist, sort of, but my role has expanded a little bit more into being like an editor and such, which not just only editing pages, but I handle a lot of the community stuff for the comic. Basically, I do things that would be a hassle for Val, because he needs to focus on, interacting on his own term, having fun. Business side of things is more my speed, but
really just keeping my head down on the drawing board and crunching out more pages. But yeah, I tend to either be doing exactly that or, the kind of stuff Rapti's talking about, it's doesn't come super naturally to me. So she has been a big help in all this.
Supernaturally, it's your ghost of a thing. Oh, but so for today, in terms of questions, again, we'll be taking questions of all sorts. And it doesn't necessarily just have to be related to the comics. If you have questions about like art or writing or pretty much anything that's more or less kind of an on-topic sort of thing, feel free to ask. And I'm going to wait till we have a couple questions queued up. So again, be certain to type those out in the chat channel for us.
No, thanks, Vasa. And, honestly, since this is the first one we got by Yao here, I may as well answer this one. Will the bird things show up in either comic at some point? There is a giant migratory flock of terrestrial bird sorts of things in Out of Placers, and they migrate through the city of Valsalia once every few years. So they aren't bird things like the kinds that I use as my avatar, but they share a lot of the same kind of energy. So I'm looking forward to that part.
Oh yeah, Kayin. Kind of like Nightmare. Yeah, it says uh, voice is smooth and deep. Reminds of Nightmind, and yeah, Val does not have as many eyes as Nightmind. Also
I got to check out
because
Nightmind.
yeah, Nightmind stuff is really good. Also, I'm going to be certain to to read out the name of the person asking the question and such, just because it makes it a little bit easier for everyone. Let's
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Looks like Finn has a question.
All right. How far away are the southern enclaves from the Valsalia region? It's yeah. I really need to do like a fully topographical map of the region sometime, but it's generally about the same distance from. I want to say. No, like using the United States as a reference, if you were to start at the southern tip of Texas, it's probably about up to the northern border or so of the US. Like that's about the distance that there is, yeah, between kind of the southern edge of the map where the Yinglets are initially evolved and the city of Valsalia. So that should give you a rough idea. Oh, yeah, one by Fossa. How do you pronounce researcher Rand's full name? That is Rand Sestu Gemindel.
That's the first time I heard that as well. Oh, Teether has a question, it looks like.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it would just be such a bad use of a Chekhov's gun to not. So, yeah, we're going to be seeing that baby more.
Oh, surprise to me as well. Most of these answers, or a good portion of these answers, are likely to be surprises because Val keeps secrets.
And what I love about these kinds of things is sometimes I'll get hit by one that I just honestly never thought about, but I have an answer to because, I've just filled out enough of what's kind of above and below it in the list that I can figure out, oh, yeah, obviously it would be this or that.
It's a very good point. Yeah, as time goes on, it sounds like, yeah, coming up with more stuff. And being able to answer a bit more things.
Oh, yeah, Tawam, what is how you imagined it?
Oh, looks like Kain has a question of Tovarash Salya. Do you are of believing love can be of happening between traditionalist conservative young patriarch and guard elevator guy?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Well, this is one of those things where, like, in canon, he is very much not, like Yinglet supremacist, but their culture just it kind of focuses on them being their own thing away from other species and all that. So in canon, that would be just far too scandalous for his very, very I don't want to say indoctrinated, but he's kind of the golden child of a semi-religious cultural order. So he's you wouldn't really do that. But the important thing here is that canon, I subscribe to that whole theory of there's a infinite number of different universes where just the slightest small thing is different from another. And really, if it's fun for you, that should be canon for whatever it is you're playing around with. So don't, let the hard canon, I say, be kind of a blueprint to start from. But if you got a fun idea, don't let it limit you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for clarification too, I believe it was an arclet that was being referred to. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Also, the sneaky patriarch's name is pronounced Basil, which kind of threw me for a loop as well. Not Basil or Basil or Basil. It's Basil.
Right. So that one, it's about like halfway between Basil, like Bazel sort of, and Beasel. So it's mainly basil, but with a bit of a slight E inflection. So kind of like basil.
Basil. Oh,
It's just,
got the
but
diphthong.
honestly, however you have it in your head, go with that.
Okay, we've got a question by Teether. Val, how common are dud eggs?
This is one of those things I hadn't specifically thought about, but I have a pretty good idea of. So let me figure out how to word it. I'd say in about like in a batch of say 10. No, it's more like 1 or 2 out of every 20 or so. And there's usually like since beanlets have sorts of strings of eggs, a bit like chickens. Uh, if there's a dud, it's usually one that's either right at the beginning that hasn't had huge amount of time to develop before it's pushed out, or right at the end after all like the good stuff's already been kind of used up and doesn't quite make it all the way.
Looks like we've got another question by Clarion Claxon. Valsalia, Valsalia, the city, seems like a place with an incredible amount of hidden corners and spaces, some intentional, some incidental. Are we going to see some of those places moving forward? Basil seems like a natural urban explorer.
Oh yeah. So I'd actually meant to show off more of the city and kind of civilian life and everything before this point, but yeah, plot was kind of really been anchored to the main characters pretty heavily. But yeah, there's definitely plans to not only show off the different parts of the city, but also just some pages that show off random bits of life of unnamed characters, human, beinglet, whatever, and just their interactions with each other. But yeah, there's a certain series of events that's going to be starting here in the next couple months or 2 or 3 months of pages, where yeah, things are going to start opening up a lot more environment wise. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. Let's see here. And so in the multiverse, sorry, I'm just looking at something called, oh, looks like more people talking about how they love Val's voice, which, if I'm not mistaken, is you trained it a bit. Is that correct? Just a little bit to get it that natural kind of sounding, inflection?
A bit, yeah. It's I did a fair amount of voice acting for well, what I actually have my degree in is things like general media arts and like commercial production, video editing, stuff like that. And so yeah, I ended up providing voiceovers for a few different projects, and so that gave me a lot of time to hear myself and compare to what else is kind of on the market, what's the standard, and that and making a bunch of calls and having to be really precise so that nobody misunderstands on a bad line. And but yeah, I've put a little work into that.
And if I remember correctly, you were trying to figure out what Viracoy sounded like, and I believe my conclusion was in the end was that Viracoy basically just had your accent and voice, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. It's like, honestly, I can't.
Kind of half joking.
I would need, yeah, I would need like a voice alteration software to, I would say, properly voice any of the characters in the comic, because like none of them sound exactly like me, and I'm not super great at like character acting. So even in the most like the closest I've gotten to voicing like Ran or Viracoy, even when I'm saying it, I can hear something that's different than how I imagine it when I write them. So yeah, I would need some digital alteration assistance, I think, and good amount of practice to really nail how I hear them in the comic. But also stuff like that, I kind of like leaving to the readers' minds how they. It's kind of like if you, no matter how good an audiobook's narrator is, it'll never sound as right to you as like the voices of the characters in your mind.
Looks like Tirga,
Oh
Turga,
yeah.
Tyrga has a question. How many other intelligent species are there in your world other than those introduced? Either an estimate or that you've developed but not yet introduced.
Pretty few. We've seen the majority. There's well, Isher's non-human side is humanoid, but they're intelligent. There's that flock of migratory terrestrial birds. They're at least what qualifies as intelligent. But yeah, between the Yinglets, the Baxid, humans, those are really the three big ones.
Oh, Cheese in chat mentions a question. Well, I know Cheese can't really listen at the point a moment, but asks, "Are we going to get a list of the questions and their answers after this is done?" And we're going to be working on collating and everything so that people can, you know, we're recording everything so that way we'll have a way of getting everything together for people to read and or
Yeah, we're
listen
going to
to.
try and have little timestamps for here's the point where this got asked. Here's the answer where. Yeah, we're basically going to provide a little breakdown of what gets talked at what time.
Looks
And
like,
let's see.
oh, sorry. I was
Yeah,
going to
the
say,
pronunciation is Viracroy. Oh, hey, little Napoleon. Nice to see you in here.
looks like, okay, next question is from Kovako, and feel free to to correct me on name pronunciation. Anybody whose name I get wrong. Anyways, Kovako asks, what inspired you to start this project? And are you surprised with the community that has come from it?
I am absolutely surprised. Yeah. This, ironically, was, well, I've had a few big, huge, personally important, epic ideas for stories that I've come up with over my life and, written just tons of info, world building. They never got started. And I've begun to notice that a huge amount of people have these, amazing, gigantic, magnum opus, life defining work ideas, but just never get around to starting them because they built it up so much in their heads that they could like never really start on it or do it justice. And so, ironically, of all those projects, Out of Placers is the one I spent by far the least amount of time prepping for before starting. Uh, I did have a huge grab bag of ideas that I'd been accumulating over the years, so I was just ready to pick up a bunch and mold them into place and go. But yeah, originally this was just supposed to be a project I was doing for me to keep myself drawing regularly, to keep my style from. Well, if you don't draw for a while, you get rusty, and I forgot a lot of stuff after a long, dry period. So yeah, it started out as just I don't. It'd be nice if I got feedback on this, but I'm not expecting it to go anywhere. And that's one of the reasons I decided not to go with the standard, paper page size. I figured, there's no way, anybody's going to want to get this published or anything. So I'll just free myself of that limitation. But it was really just a moment of, okay, damn it, I just want to make a comic. Let's just do it. Let's just do it right now. Go on, do it. And that's all it took. Now, let me
Okay,
see.
it looks
There's
like,
another one back here.
oh, is okay. I was going to say, I ask because that way people won't confuse my voice and yours. Well, they won't ever actually. Anyways, sorry. Finn asks, will we see Isher's other half?
Absolutely. That is going to be a big plot point. There's a lot of stuff that I've hinted at, and I'm not going to, we're not going to be exploring every location that the map shows and stuff like that. Vast, if not the entire, comic itself is going to take place in the Valsalian region. But yeah, stuff like that is just way too important to leave unexplored. Plus, it has a big impact on Isher as a character. So, yeah, leaving that unexplored would, I don't know, just leave a big hole in the story, I think.
Uh, in response to will we see Isher's other half? By the way, Captain Lovepoke said we saw her butt. So Fair enough on that. Uh, Shell
Fair
Navar,
enough.
no, sorry, Shay Navar nor Valsalia says, Val, are we going to see any other things in the comic or possibly other canon utilization?
I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and forth with this particular thing. Is up until the last one or two drafts of the comic that came together pretty quickly, there actually was no transformational element. It was all just like the characters, their storylines, the setting. It was also a bit more loose and a bit less plot based, but the more and more, well, kind of at the very end, and when I decided if I'm doing this for myself, I may as well add in some elements that, I feel I have some stuff to say on and it's fun for me personally. So, like, what if I got one of the characters changed into something else and explored some of that? And then I realized, okay, this character, no, that wouldn't work. But what about this character and this? And about 10 minutes later, I realized that's not just self indulgent, that's actually perfect for the story, would actually help bridge this section, and would give a reason for these characters to interact. So, holy crap, I'm doing this. So, really, as it is been planned, it was always going to be just Cass experiencing this because, I mean, on one hand, in this kind of case, more of that transformational element could be fun. On the other, I don't feel like I could just, boom, got somebody else transformed to something else, backs it or something. I can't just leave it at like that. At that point, it would need to be really explored, and that means a huge dedications of time and number of pages spent on that sort of thing. So it's not completely off the table, but if so, I'm being very careful about it.
Next question from Little Napoleon says, can the two of you tell us a little bit about your workflow?
Oh yeah, this is we kind of develop one. It's basically I'll start by storyboarding a page, just getting a really sketchy idea of what the characters will be looking like, what kind of poses they'll be making, and basically the gist of what they'll be saying, but just enough so that I can kind of capture what I was thinking in that moment. A lot can change when I'm in the later stages, but yeah, after that, then I just lay down all of the sketches of do the base bodies and faces. Then I go over and do all the clothes and hairs. Then usually on a day in itself, I'll go over and ink all the lines. After that, I send it off to Rapti and Loaf, and whoever's able to help out with the colors and shades. And either I take a little break at that point, or I just get right on to the backgrounds and text, and just finish up on everything that isn't the colors and shades. And whenever I get those back, I just pop them in the page, and it's usually about ready to go at that point.
For my part of the workflow, let me give you just a moment to, I'm trying to condense this thought down.
Yeah.
Essentially, Val sends me the PSD, which sometimes has a bunch of layers of inks, sometimes, gets condensed down, but there's some shenanigans where I resize and basically fill everything in with gray, etc., etc. It's a little bit, it doesn't take too long. Then I do colors. When I do colors, I tend to notice if there's any edits that need to be made to like inks or anything like that. Like if is something that got left out or has to be tweaked, I'll let Val know, and either I will fix it or he will, and do shading, etc. Lately, as I've been working less with coloring, it's been to Captain Lovepoke, who's been doing a lot of those steps, and sometimes now we'll either like he'll do all of them, or we'll split. Just we're kind of flexible in terms of what works best for the comic. Looks like next question would be Freakin' Fossa says, will we be seeing more of Isher's origins? Rand seemed to have figured it out.
Oh yeah, that's going to be very closely tied up with yeah, with meeting the non-human species that she comes from.
Valiant does quick answers when I'm taking water sips.
Yeah.
Let me put this bottle somewhere. Okay. Looks like Teether says, does Kalker have a crush on the female human sculptor?
He absolutely does. It's he's not very subtle about it, but yeah, the way that she uses her hands to shape metals into like very specific artistic forms. He's really into not only the hands part of it, which are a bit of a fascination for all the Baxid, but also they they're like extremely uh, which side of the brain is it? Is it left brain that's all hard mathematics calculations and right brain's all creatives? Is that it?
More or less. That's
Okay.
more or less how
Well,
that
yeah.
tends to go.
Okay. Well, like Baxid are basically like 99% left brain. So they struggle incredibly when it comes to creative endeavors. Like one of the worst things that you can ask someone to do is listen to some music written by Baxid. Uh, but yeah, so the fact that she is, she's not like a master at her work, but she's pretty creative in what she does. So just the way that she uses her little human appendages to make these works of beauty that, like, yeah, he really likes her for that. And, well, also just her as this mysterious creature that does things he can't fully comprehend. But yeah, like Baxid can understand music or like appreciate painting on in so many levels, maybe at not at the same depth as a human, but they just have a major problem creating it themselves.
As a quick side note, and anybody who loves this kind of thing, who's into, like, because the backside answer here reminded me, plug in somebody's book. It's called The Long Way to Small Angry Planet, the Wayfarer series, book one. It's by Becky Chambers. I'll link it in the chat here. Fantastic novel. Reminds me a lot of Out of Placers. Nice and kind of comfy, but a little bit of peril. So, I don't know Becky Chambers personally, but it's one of my favorite books that I've read. So let's see. Next question we have here, and I totally wasn't doing that while I was stalling for finding the question. So our losers says, do you know how many more field guide pages will be made?
Oh, we got a lot. It's just recently there hasn't been the best opportunity for them, mainly because we've been following Isher, the Backsids. Well, actually, got a few with the Backsid. But yeah, there's a lot about both stuff that happens in the comic and is going to be, important to know, but also just a lot of little random things. Like people have been wanting to know more about like random flora and fauna around the world. And so like that doesn't have much to do with the story, but it would just be, fun to have a page of, hey, here's some plants and animals and what they like and what they do and all that. So in terms of ones that are important, or we're actually going to have a lot more of Cass's personal journals coming up in sort of a different form as well, like a bit less just straight large piece of paper and more kind of half comic, half journal, showing stuff going on. It's kind of hard to describe, but been looking forward to starting that for a while. But we're just about to go back to Cass finally in the comics, so things are going to be, getting a lot more field guidey in the next few pages.
Also, I'd like to touch on, missed a little bit earlier, that Leo Scott asked if there, anything so back said that you wanted to include in Kalker's side arc, but it sounds like, or that you haven't fit in, but it sounds like you've pretty much addressed a lot of that already.
Yeah, either currently or, well, I mean, he is more or less a main character, and we're going to be seeing a lot more from him. Like what we've seen of him currently was kind of a background setup to what his character arc is going to be. as you know, there's a lot of foreshadowing for him going to be guarding the markets, and hey, it's the same markets that his metal worker girl works at. So, I mean, I'm going to do something with that.
That's right, all of you Baxidophiles. Kelker is a main character. Bum, 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 bum. There can be new main characters at any point. No, I'm joking a bit. Looks like, let's see here.
Oh yeah, while we're on it, his name is pronounced with kind of like a hard stop on the G, so it's a bit kind of like Kalker. Kalker, yeah.
Kalker. Okay, got to get that right. Kalker. With a rumble. No. So
getting there.
Okay. Gunmetal Gator asks, do you have an interesting plot progression for this story, or is it day by day adding more and more to an unknown end? I know personally that latter is kind of what I personally do, but Val, your approach is?
Yeah, it's well, this is another one of those things that changed while I was kind of conceptualizing this comic. Originally, it was actually going to be almost completely plot free, a bit more kind of like Ogloff, where there was recurring sets of characters and locations. But for the most part, originally it was going to be kind of just, well, one of the early ideas for the name of the comic was Daily Life in Valsalia. So just, random people going about their days, stuff that happens in the city, with the city itself kind of like being the main character. But obviously, as I started figuring things out a bit more, I realized this would actually be a really good setting for an actual plot. And so it's a bit, it takes elements of both, hard plot and that sort of slice of life, day-to-day sort of stuff. Basically, I have the plot is set at this point. I know I haven't filled absolutely everything in, but what I use are kind of like, I call them anchor points. Things like Cass getting that thing, or Kalker visiting the Bloom graveyard, and things like that. I know this is going to happen. Then the next big point is that this is going to happen, and in kind of a line up until the very end. So yeah, I know how the story ends. It's not going to be going on forever. But I leave myself a lot of space in between those anchor points to elaborate or flesh out or maybe even skip ahead. But another thing I've found is that it can be kind of bad to nail down every aspect of a story a long time before you're actually going to get to it, because you're going to have years of time to think about what's coming up between that point and when you actually get to it. And, I've found so many times some of those anchor points themselves have changed slightly as I've realized, it would be so much better if I did this instead and had this character come over and blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, I follow this line of anchor points, but loosely. If I feel like, hey, this part with Lopen here is going on really great, why don't I add another couple of pages of that? I have the freedom to do so. And so far, it's been working really well. I just have to be careful not to add so much buffer between the anchor points that I don't find the end of this until, I'll say I'm a big fan of Berserk. And when the artist, author, creator, he passed away very untimely, but he'd pretty much worked himself to death. I realized because of that, I'm never going to get to see the ending of that story I've been following so long. And that got me thinking, okay, I need to be sure in various ways that I don't let this happen here. One, I'm going to finish it, before I'm old. And two, that's also led to me kind of taking better care of myself. So, but yeah, overall, that's kind of how everything is laid out currently.
Briefly, I wanted to go ahead and welcome Coupons. They are another person who has been coloring off and on. I would consider them part of the colorist stable, even though, again, they aren't always there. But do you want to say a little bit?
Been great.
Yeah, do you want to say a little bit about yourself, Koof?
I mean, I I don't know.
Oh, you have robot audio.
sprung on me. Sorry, my audio probably isn't this. I don't actually have a mic. Um,
Oh,
but
wow.
yeah, uh, I'm still so honored that Rob is a temporary colorist. This this community has meant a lot to me. This story has meant a lot to me. So I am just super glad that I was given that chance. So hi everybody, how y'all doing?
I'm doing good. And yeah, Cusp, it's one of those things where I had no idea that this was even a possibility, but yeah, just gave Koof page or two to work on, see what comes back, and then holy crap, this Koof really knows what they're doing.
Yep, Koofins is a Poofins, as it were. Okay, let us. Oh gosh,
Agreed.
there's so many questions. I'm trying to skim
That's what we're here
through
for.
Okay. Turger asked how much of the story is planned out. Do you have an eventual planned end? I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. Some of the slight details might change, but yeah, I know how this all ends.
Somebody, hold on here. Oh yeah, sorry. T-Wong asked.
While you're searching,
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll just append to that once the story's over, I think I'm still gonna be using things in the setting. Like this is built up enough that after this set of characters and the main plot that's kind of coming together, and people start to see what it is. I think in this, yeah, definitely sometime this year, see like what the big underlying mover of the plot is. But yeah, once that comes to an end, I see no problem with having the current set of characters still around and kicking and doing their things. Might make cameos, but at that point, I'll just kind of move on to a different set of characters, maybe some years later. But yeah, Out of Placer's ending will be a very definitive. Like you could stop reading here, and nothing would feel incomplete.
Or out of place.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, this is a fun question here. Taeom says, I know there's a lot of questions coming in, but what real-world animals inspired you to create eaglets? I can definitely see a lot of chicken personality in them. This is a fun story.
Yeah. So I didn't want to, in some of the early phases of, this story planning, I was just considering doing something with existing species like standard fantasy goblins or kobolds or something. But yeah, as I was building it up, I realized it would really help the storytelling if I could kind of customize a creature or various species to fit the story's needs in that sense. And so while I especially didn't want the species that would become yinglets to be, I don't really anything to be a mishmash of like it has the head of a jaguar but has a body of a spider but with little reptile feet or something like that. No, I wanted it to be kind of a coherent sort of alternate physiology. I mean, like I'd call them aliens because I'd call anything that's not established already or human or anything, just creatures in that sense.
Critters.
But yeah, that does it. But the one aspect that I did take out of my grab bag of ideas when it was time to cobble together a story is I've done a lot of rehabbing of wild birds in my life. And one time I rehabbed a killdeer chick. They're actually called that, Killdeer. I think it makes it sound like they kill deers, but apparently it's because their sound sounds like kildy. I don't know. I don't think it does. But anyway, they're these little plovers, which are basically like little beach birds, the kind with long legs that they're not quite cranes. They're usually normally bird proportioned except for their legs. But I got a lot of time to watch that little guy run around on those legs. And the legs are the first things that came in. So it was just this tiny little ball of fluff with some, huge legs. So anyway, just the way it moved around it stuck with me. So I just put in my notebook, consider making a species with these kinds of legs. So that one aspect is the one thing that's really been inspired from a real life animal.
Okay, looks like next question is, and again, sorry that I am getting them out of order, but Abby from a Land Down Under, hey Abby, says, who were the others that you considered as candidates for Zatsy before you settled on Cass?
Oh, originally it was actually going to be Elam, or the character that was unnamed and still developing a bit more of a cocky sort of attitude. But yeah, I thought, okay, secondary character, he's less of a leader, sort of. That, yeah, there we go. The little leg creatures on the screen there. Anyway, but yeah, I rolled it around a bit and I realized, okay, if I actually do this with a main character that's really non-standard, it would like really mess up, but not necessarily in a bad way, the sort of group dynamics and sort of life and plot that I had for both these characters. But yeah, after I tried it out, and it was pretty obvious. Yeah, it definitely has to be Cass.
Larian Klaxon says, how did you nail the existential nightmare of being in a body you're alienated from so perfectly so early in the comic?
Well, that's well, transformation as a narrative plot, or it's been part of human storytelling for, basically since there've been storytelling. It whether it's like, oh crap, I'm a goat and I got it, like some goddess got angry at me and I got to undo this, or like exploration thereof, or what existence would be like in an alternate sort of physiology and mind. There's just a lot of uses of it, and it's always something that's been that's appealed to me in storytelling, and I've just read enough of them and had plenty of time to think about it on my own. Like, if I was writing this story, I would want to know what the character was like thinking about this, or how this felt to them. So yeah, I had a lifetime of those kinds of questions. Like, I'd love to see a story or a comic that talks about this, or focuses on, it just gave me a lot to work with. So when I decided to add transformation as an element to the comic, it wasn't just, oh, I like this, so I'm going to put it in there. It's also because I feel that I have a lot of thoughts that are a bit more, I guess, I don't know, sounds pompous to say deep, but like maybe more well thought out, or just more considered views about, this or that. And actually, part of the way that Yinglets came together as a species were based on what sorts of interesting aspects of, being a different species with a different sort of mind would be like. So it's not like they were designed to be, transformation exploration subjects, but with a few tweaks, they became something that was very useful in storytelling on their own, but also, let me explore some of those things that I have, I think, a lot to talk about, a lot to feature, and just good stuff for the story.
Oh god, I got so lost in pinning questions that I missed the oh, hold on here. Okay.
That's what you're doing.
So Joy Monger says, hi Val, are the behaviors of preener and seeker archetypes influenced by social preconditioning due to pre-existing physical features, or is there something more biological at play? Follow-up question. Can preeners behave like seekers and vice versa? Thanks.
Well, a lot of their sort of three-gendered society is based on there's a lot of weird nature on our own planet that has more than three genders. Some of them have up to five, and in ways that like really express themselves not only in behavior but physically. Like there's this type of thrush that like the red colored ones, it's all the exact same species here. Red ones will take territory and only mate with the blues and the yellows. The blues mate exclusively with the reds. The yellows will kind of like change their territory a bit. then like the oranges are only males and they will always fly around and never take territory. All the exact same species, but they have something different biologically in them that, really alter their behaviors, the way they, interact with each other. And then there's the, cuttlefish have sort of smaller ones that look almost like exactly like the female ones, and they'll present themselves as female to get the protection of male, and then whenever the male's out, they'll sneak breed with the females. So there's a lot of examples of that, and I wanted to play around with that as a concept, as how would that sort of thing play into culture and society building on a species that is intelligent and enough to build its own culture. So, having just not just straight up male female, but extras to kind of round out some of their more biologically troublesome aspects. So it's a lot of that is really based on actual observation of nature.
Next question from Abby goes, a question. What comics and or web comics inspired/inspire you in writing, drawing, and or coloring?
Good question. It's in terms of inspiration, not a whole lot. Like I love there's some web comics that I really appreciate and enjoy, but I can't really say that I'm taking much from any of those that I enjoy or being inspired by. I really do like comics like Gunner Krigg Court by Tom Siddall, I think it is. Corey Being, Kory, does this great, like very transformation based comic called Skin Deep. Definitely worth checking that out. But they all do very different things than the Outer Placers have done. So this comic project has always been about less trying to do some of the good things that I enjoyed in other works and more trying to be something just very much of its own.
Keeping up with pins here. Pin. Faraday says, will there be more backsit fashion and wigs in the future?
So many wigs. I mean, almost entirely Culdra, but yes, lots of wigs and fashion. It's fun making fashion for giant bone worms.
Too many wigs. Let's see, okay. So next question is from Freaking Fossa. Says, will you be doing audio narrations of OOPS-related stuff like field guides, since you actually have experience in that field? I once asked if I could... Oh, actually, 1 second. Nope, actually, I won't read that last part. But essentially looking into doing audio narrations at some point.
I had not considered that, but not a bad idea.
Yeah, honestly, your voice would be perfect for it, Al.
Interesting. I can see myself getting a kind of elitist, almost dry sort of early scientist sort of accent for it or something. Well, I'll think about it.
Oops, I think I almost dropped my phone. Okay. Oh gosh, so many low pins. I mean, pins.
Don't drop your phone.
Okay, it says, next question is from Magpie. How much communication do enclaves have between each other? Are there main administrative bodies that oversee many enclaves at once?
Sort of. It helps that their culture has been designed by, the Great One to be very self-reinforcing. So as it is, they generally look after themselves, but there are always traveling parties of those that kind of take a general sort of census and make sure that an enclave hasn't devolved into cannibalism or isn't doing any of the big no things that the Great One kind of set forth. So that's actually part of the reason that Narclit got sent up from the south, that they the Valsalian Yingling Enclave is the only one that's really that close to a human settlement and openly interacts with them. So at first it was a bit of an experiment, wasn't expected to last too long, but yeah, when those traveling delegations noticed, okay, this enclave is starting to really kind of become its own thing. It's a bit different from the main culture. Yeah, we better send some people up there to make sure they don't go too far on that. So yeah, there are these traveling parties that basically just are always moving between the enclaves to get an idea of what's going on. And sometimes the entire enclave will just get lost or eaten or something like that. So it's not the best system, but it works in general.
Morris the Wizard says, what happened to the younglet that Cass saved?
Wait, to the what?
The younglet that Cass saved.
Oh, younglet. Okay. Well,
the one that went. Y'all know which one I'm talking about. Use the emoji. Sorry.
Usually, ones that are that sickly are a lot of resources and time to get to a healthy state. So sometimes they'll just let nature take its course. But since this is one that the Vizsla had. She knows this one's got a special connection to someone who she's definitely trying to influence in some certain ways. She's made a point of that one getting the treatment that it needs to actually live.
Cannot for the life of me find the emoji for that one. Someone will have to put it into chat. But
oh, that one, yeah.
Okay, so next question from Silly Zealot says, how did you come up with the name of the city? Is there a meaning to the name?
Oh, this is actually connected to the question of why do I go by Valsalia? It's that the name is actually one of those things that I had in my big ass grab bag of ideas when I started. That it was actually the name of. Well, actually, I'll go back a step further. One of those big comic ideas that I had that never really took off, I actually conceptualized long before I ever started trying to draw myself. It's a project that I made with some college roommates. There's one that was an artist, and we just tried a few things. That's where kind of the comic bug bit me. But it was set in modern day United States, but in like a very remote, mountains all around it, can't get planes in there. It's hard to get in, hard to get out, sort of, city. Self-sustaining. It was called Valsalia. And, oh my God, Cayenne, what have you how long have you been working on that? Let me finish this question first. It was basically a modern day slice of life comic based in this city that was just out in the middle of nowhere. It was kind of like a world in itself. And the place was called Valsalia. So that part of that comic kind of lived on in that sense of isolation, of it being its own little world. And plus, I just like the sound of it. So that's how it got in there in the first place. Actually, a few of those aspects of the comic were parts of earlier comics that never took off that I thought, hey, there was some content in this. What if I retool it a bit to fit the setting and, actually explore it there? But also because of that, I've had the web space Valsalia for about 10 years now. So when it was time to make a new comic, okay, I already got the web space. Why not use that for the name of the city? The canon reason for it is that the line of people who essentially established it, turning it from just a little oasis traders spot to essentially a city state, was the first of the Salia line. Glenwyn Salia, I think it was. But he was big dreams and all that. He was the first one to come in there and kind of turn it into a actual civilized area. And it's still kind of like an open fairgrounds of merchants or something, but the Salias represent kind of the groundskeepers. So they're the ones charged with, you know, guarding the place, making sure thievery doesn't happen, making sure there's refreshments and all that, but on a city sort of level.
Refreshments.
Yeah. But yeah, so part of it is that, I mean, it is a bit of an odd name. It's kind of like there's no actual Val in the Salia family line. So by itself, the city name's kind of a weird one. So it's kind of like a city named Edward Tully or something like that. But it's just the way things always has been. So that's the way it is. And the reason I'm known as that is that about the time I started that old comic that, you know, never took off, I also made a DeviantArt account, which I just called Valsalia, branding and all that. And I just kind of took my time in developing an actual artist name. So people just started calling me by, you know, the name of the account. And I decided, this kind of works. So the only worry I have sometimes is if people wonder if it was the other way around, like, this guy named this city in the comic after himself. It's so weird or something like that. But no, it was exactly the opposite.
Ben asks, how much time has actually passed in comic?
Well, this, along with things like actual like size of the city, exact population, size of the continent, and all that, I tried really hard to take a sort of Terry Pratchett approach, author of the Discworld series. Every time somebody tried to get something solid out of him, he just said, you know, it's people wanted to ask, okay, how long is this one main road? And he would only answer, well, up, you know, all the way from this bar to this college. So like while being strangely detail oriented, he also left a lot of that stuff up to the imagination. But yeah, people eventually wore him down, and he had to actually give out some hard info so that stuff like board games or, you know, stuff like that could be made. And I'm finding it to be very much the same sort of experience. After being asked, you know, these sort of hard points enough times, I realized, okay, yeah, I'm probably going to have to put an actual number to it or so. But around, I want to say, a little less than a month or so. And time has been pretty packed so far since there's just a lot to set up. And before the next sort of round of things can happen, I needed to introduce characters, get certain stuff started. So yeah, time has been pretty packed so far. But yeah, that's going to be opening up a little.
What she said. Okay, anyway, so next question is from Liao Scott, which says, so there's a lot of communities for Oops, the comics website, DeviantArt, Fur Affinity, Discord, Twitter, and even the occasional thread on Trash, on 4chan. Have you noticed any particular and consistent differences in what the various communities focus on or seem to want from the comic? Similar question from the Lester Godian mated communities and how they vary compared to the horde of Yinglets. In-depth question.
So much and yet so little. In terms of what people like, or, you know, what gets them to read the comic and come back to it, that seems to be strangely universal. I mean, even across Trash and you know, other places like that. Even on E621, I read the comments, and they could be the same comments on, you know, like DeviantArt or Fur Affinity. But I think there is a major difference in terms of how things are discussed. Yeah, kind of the overall tone. Some groups have more interest in certain types of questions than others. But so yeah, about half is like pretty well defined by the site and the site's culture that it's on, and half is about exactly the same.
I just trying to reset my mic threshold so that it didn't pop every time I made the slightest sound.
Yeah, actually, just a second. I need to refill my water. I'll be right back.
While Val goes away to fill the water, I want to take a moment to thank everybody here. I mean, we've got, looks like an astounding 41 people. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Want to thank all of you for being here. Oh gosh, let's see if I can get through these names here. Fen, Clarion, Klaxon, Teether, Yaudima, Hazlitt, Terry Proudtail, Sipato, and Nadia Inglet, Shine Nava, Valselia, the Little Napoleon, Faraday, Diaruk, Deb Cord, Spooky Jump Scare, Hazlitt, Abstractions, Captain Lopuk, Morris the Wizard, Chrysopia, our losers, Cayenne, Lau Scott, Freakin' Fossa, Joymonger, Magpie, Waz, Matriarch Mira, Tefine Enix, Rikon, Tirga, Tewan, Abby from the Land Down Under, Internet Catchphrase, Rajoki, General Irrelevant, Monkey Spunk, Silly Zealot, Kind Bar Salmon, yes, Salmon, the High Speed Skate, Gear, and Dragon Myth. Again, I want to thank all of you for being here, making the time, because again, it's without people like y'all, we wouldn't be going. Also, short anecdote, every single Discord server that I've gone into has had at least one Out of Placers fan, even if it's unrelated to like furry stuff or whatever. I have a Yinglet t-shirt that I wear sometimes. I've been recognized with 3 or 4 times in public. I'm just walking around. This comic has a very, very diverse audience, and honestly, probably one of the diversest, yes, fan bases of any webcomic that I've seen. And yes, there's something universally appealing about it.
That's something that's really surprised me too. It's it wasn't exactly going for a general audience sort of comic, but I also thought it would, be a little too niche to, or at least that was kind of what I was afraid of when I added in the transformation element. Like, is this going to turn this from something that a lot of people are going to read to, ew, this is weird, I don't want to read this? But that, page that Cass got that thing was pretty much when comments and views started exploding. So honestly, I wish I would have been a bit more brave and leaned a bit harder into it at the beginning. But I don't know. Maybe the fact that I didn't is maybe that helped it out. Or
that's what Lamb is for.
It's what it is, and I like.
Yeah, Lamb is the seedy underbelly of the comic world for Val. That one is intended for mature audiences mostly, but it's available. I mean, I guess it's on your DA and your FA. We won't be putting that on the main site because we've gotten questions about this before, because it's not Yinglet related, or not Yinglet related. It's not Out of Placers related, if that's correct.
Yeah, and it's also based in copyrighted content, and Bethesda's lawyers can be a bit choosy about what they allow, so I don't want to poke that bear.
Yes. Poke is nice. Okay, let's see. Way back from when the Morsa Wizard was commenting with, we'll say, wanted to know if the comic kind of ends with a happily ever after.
Well, I'll tell you this. It's not going to be a bleak, depressing ending. It's also not going to be I just realized I'm kind of limited in how I can say this that won't actually...
It'll be a satisfying ending.
Yes, it'll definitely be a satisfying ending, but I just realized, there's almost nothing I can say without it confirming somewhat like a few people's theories about this or that. So that's as much as I can say.
Yeah, okay. I'll say it's going to be, from what I've heard, and again, this is provisionally canon. I'm not going to give any details, but Val may change the ending, may have in mind. I don't know. But from what I've heard, it's going to be pretty satisfying, and people will have said it's going to be worth it. It's not going to drop a certain infamous HBO show thing where the last 100 pages or so are not very good. It's not going to do anything like that. Don't worry.
Putting in, even at this stage, putting in a lot of effort to make sure that things don't get rushed, or there's some big thing that comes up that requires a whole lot of action sequences and just needs to be wrapped up quickly at the end, or one of those endings where you're just left uncertain. No, it is, every character is going to have their arc completed to, I believe, very satisfying ways.
Some more satisfying than no. I'm just joking there. Freaking Pasta says, "Will there, once the main story has ended, be a spin-off?"
That's actually the plan. There's other like locations, or even just within the city, or types of characters that I could just keep adding into the main comic, but it would never get finished. But yeah, the setting's definitely rich enough that I've had a bunch of ideas of characters, plots, settings, that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's currently the plan once I finish Out of Placers. Oh yeah, this wasn't asked, but on terms of Out of Placers, the name was mainly chosen so that I could make an acronym of OOPS out of it. I just love my dumb wordplay a little too much.
I mean, it works. Like anytime I say oops, I immediately like just get psychic damage thinking about Yinglets immediately after. So
Oh yeah, good point.
It's a mimetic info hazard, cognito hazard. I don't know. SCP's up to like 7,000 entry. By the way, people read the SCP wiki contest going on. I don't know why I keep plugging other things. Anyways, I guess it's all about sharing stuff we all enjoy, which is how the comic spread. Anyways,
definitely. I haven't done, like proper marketing for this thing, so this has all been
not yet
through the people. Yeah, that is going to change. I am staying above the waterline for the most part financially, but I realize I do need to. Well, we're going to be starting merch and stuff like that. At first, I was like, oh, no, I don't want to sell out. But then people kept asking for Cass Dackies and Lopin plushies. Ducky, okay. And then, yeah. And then, so yeah, not only has that, been something people actually want, apparently, but yeah, it would be nice to do this and also be able to pay medical bills and stuff. So merchandising, more advertising, that's definitely going to be starting this year.
Yeah, we can't say too much, but we have people we're speaking with, and we have some stuff lined up that looks like it may go well. So there'll be some stuff. Again, looking hopefully for the Deiki Mokuras to be out by the end of the year. Also, because I guess SCP, here's the single SCP I wrote. It's a scav post, I guess, appropriately enough. But okay, so the next question is from Shinaba Narvalsalia. Val, what does Isher sound like? Is her voice deeper than average or lighter? Soft or rough?
Her voice is a bit deeper than average. It is naturally a bit louder, but she's very kind of not, well, yeah, she is sort of timid, but she's always afraid of like, she feels like she's the biggest person in the room all the time. So it's part of the reason her body language is usually kind of hunched inwards, and voice-wise, she does kind of the same thing. She, tries to lighten and soften her voice a little, but also she just ends up kind of sounding like a lighter, softer, deep voice, loud person.
She sounds like a precious cinnamon roll is what she is. She is too precious for this sweet or purple world. Anyways, Hazlet asks, but why would anyone want to undo becoming a goat? That was a joke question I pinned from earlier. It was being silly. So the next actual question, though, is Morris the Wizard says, how much in Oops is inspired by your previous works?
Well, not so much inspired by, as taking some elements or unused elements from, like, for example, the idea of a city called Valsalia that's self-sustaining but seems very cut off from the rest of the world and kind of like a little world on its own. That's so I wouldn't say that was inspired by the previous comic, but as I was, throwing stuff together, I realized, oh, this would actually be like I developed this concept pretty well and never got used. So why don't I tweak this a little to fit with the setting? Uh, in terms of inspiration from earlier works, almost absolutely none. This was by far the most sort of different of all the story ideas I've ever come up with. So I would say, if nothing else, a lot of the elements are aspects of the other comics that I'd come up with but never got used. So they're kind of getting their chance to finally shine in this comic. And but all altered in a way that they first and foremost make sense in the setting, so that it can be pretty obvious when somebody's trying to shoehorn in an old character or something when when it happens in a comic, and I want to avoid that.
Also, I'm going to take a brief moment because this is very important. For those who are able to safely travel, we have in Dallas, Texas, Texas Furry Fiesta. It's essentially been the unofficial Yinglet con in a lot of ways. Val's pretty much always there. I tend to be there. So if anyone ever wants to, meet up in real life, we will be happy. We're all cool. Val is an awesome person. So, again, if you can, like I said, safely travel and responsibly do so, we, would love to see people there. So the next question is, sorry?
I was never really, well, let me just finish up on that a little. I was never really a con-going kind of person, and, I'm, not a total recluse, but not exactly a, huge party-going type, so I thought I would get, really tired out by it, or it would be kind of weird or awkward, but every single one I've been to has just been so chill and positive and cool to meet all these people, and it's just, not stressful at all. So anybody who might be intimidated by the idea of a con or feeling weird or something, it is just all a super chill hangout for a few days. Lots of drawing, talking, they've all been great. Yeah. And if we really get going on the merch, might actually have a table and sell some Lopen plushies or something.
Slowpoke, you're only a recluse when it comes to things that aren't Dragon Con, where you can wear your Havel fursuit. Anyways,
Can I add something to the TFF thing real quick?
Oh, yes, no. Go ahead.
Yes, so I didn't know about Yinglet stuff until about
breaking up.
Or try getting a little close to the microphone when you or actually
what microphone? I don't have one.
Or the mic, the little indent on your computer or something, but that worked.
But anyways, so apparently for years me and Val were passing each other at this con for multiple years. It's crazy how we never ran into each other, because I'm a Texan too, so it's funny, we
probably saw each other,
probably. But anyways, come to TFF for real, y'all. It's fucking great. I have never had a more chill time at a furry gathering than at TFF.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people whose first con was TFF that were Oops fans, and they liked it enough to keep coming back for some reason. Oh, no. All right, so next question. From
We'll get to this one a bit later, but Silly Zealots just brought up Legendary Legend. Rapti, do remind me to get back to that one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
there's some history behind that one. Okay.
So Yaharu says, do you take, I say that because I don't know if it's Gyro, Hero, but anyways, do you take any inspiration from science fiction literature? And if so, what?
Ironically, I didn't read a lot of science fiction literature when I was a kid. I really should have. It probably would have given me some extra ideas, but I read a lot of books, but didn't even really get into the. I mean, I really love me some sci-fi nowadays, but yeah, didn't really start into that until about, I don't know, a little more than a decade ago. But yeah, ironically, the answer to that is no.
Oh, I heard a sound in the background. Sorry. Next question from our losers is: after the fight where Elam got stabbed, one of the Yinglets was holding another's leg. How did he get that leg? Uh-oh.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there is a hard answer to that. It got maced off, and it was hanging on there by a few threads. But considering there wasn't much left of the Yinglet attached to it, it was easy to just pull off and make a friend out of.
Best friends forever. Forever. Feet are nice too, or whatever the quote was. Clarion Klaxon says, did the rooftop oracle build his own legs, or were they an act of pity by some kind human?
Actually, those were Yinglet made, which is kind of why they're shitty. But yeah, as it is, yeah. After the accident, the baker did feel a bit remorseful about chasing him off, so they have an agreement now.
Oh, also, everyone listening and participating, make sure to get hydrated. Thanks, Pancake, for the reminder. So Magpie says, could a lesser Yinglet be uplifted?
Well, I mean, like, if we're talking about it's hard to answer.
Yeah, I'm assuming
like if it got hit with that thing, then like maybe, but it also might maybe just melt. But
yeah, that's a toughie. I don't know if we can officially answer that one.
Yeah.
What's it that Brandon Sanderson says?
Yeah, like I will say that's I'm gonna have to go with stay tuned to find out.
Brandon Sanderson says RAFO, for read and find out, which is really useful because he very similar in terms of having a very engaged and involved audience. He loves asking questions. So yeah, RAFO, I guess. Next question would be, okay, so this one's by Ulrich, and if somebody can do a quick summary of the answer, since Ulrich is unable to join voice chat, says, I have a question. Does any enclave, or do enclaves all abide by the same structure and kind of culture? Are they all under the supervision of the Council of Old Yinglets that was mentioned? Forgot the name. And if not, are war and skirmishes between enclaves a thing?
Yeah, currently it is a very, what's the word? Something istic. But yeah, generally they share a lot of the same culture. The enclave structure, as well as the way that Yinglets are kind of naturally, well, actually the way that enclave structured is to kind of take advantage of that. But yeah, it is very defined based on that sort of origination culture. Each enclave does have its own defining points, like especially if it's, they set up enclaves in different sort of environments. They're going to evolve a bit differently to, suit the needs of that area. They're going to have different plants and animals to decorate themselves with, and different, events to celebrate things that happen. So they all are kept within a certain amount of sort of acceptable range of similarity to the original culture. And the Valsalian Enclave is one of the by far most different or kind of cosmopolitan, as the rest are, I mean, almost every Yinglet Enclave, aside from that, has a strict kind of no constant interaction with other species kind of rule. So yeah, the Valsalian Enclave is very much a big experiment, but it's also why it's gotten a few crackdowns.
Yeah, if I remember, you had a Snow Yinglet or a North Yinglet or something like that I believe was a canon design.
Oh yeah, well, the Valsalian Enclave is actually as far north as Yinglets have settled, up until the point that the... Oh no. I'm saving that picture. Thank you, Magpie. But yeah, in terms of they are the farthest north currently in the comics setting. Like there's some other comics made by other people like Shard of Confusion, who makes Littlefoot. The comic it's kind of based on a hypothetical much later time when Yinglets have expanded to areas where there's snow and stuff. And so yeah.
Oh, I thought that was.
They'll eventually keep spreading, but currently, Valsalian Enclave is the northern tip of the Enclave's reach.
And these are why my answers are only provincially canon, because often Val knows more about it than I tend to. Let's see here. Now, was it somebody able to transcribe the answer? Roughly speaking, for that
you should try smoothly speaking.
Yes, I can't speak smoothly, but that's going to kill my throat. Actually, I don't know why I unpinned the question. Now I have to scroll up a bunch. Here we go. Oh yeah. The question, I guess, if their answer about here. No, I'll just do this one so that way. All right. Okay, someone can try to scrap the answer that was to that. All right, so Leo Scott says, how do you come up with names? I've always found naming hard, especially keeping a consistent feeling between races and species. Are there any tricks you have for it?
Oh yeah, that's coming up with just a name is easy, like Vlaclamork. I just came up with that. It's a name, but it's not a good one. And it's going to be really hard to keep something consistent with that.
Squeeze?
So yeah, it really does come down to the consistency of it. What I'm going for in terms of the names, each general sort of area, I come up with like just a few names of like places or slang words, just a little handful of them to kind of create a base. And then anything after that, I'll try and kind of match up in terms of, certain syllables will be favored or certain types of sounds. But a lot of it just comes down to kind of bashing together syllables in my head until I come up with something that sounds decent, then kind of smoothing it out a bit more. Then I compare it to, is this consistent within the culture? And that's about it.
Yeah, my favorites, I think, names are the Carpatron Duke Maria. Also, TJAJRJ / Forth the Fifth. That's another good one. That's a reference to something. Anyways, see, next question is Val. Oh gosh, the poop question was inevitable. Val, where do street yinglets go to the bathroom? Are Valsalia's streets covered in ying poop?
Well, there's pretty much all societies have a few things in common before modern plumbing and such. But at the very least, it's pretty sandy and dusty around. I mean, mostly dust. It's not so much a desert as it is like Badlands. So it's easy to kind of just sweep some dust onto something and, it'll dry up or something. Basically, there's a problem with humans littering all sorts of things all over. And this was before the yinglets came in. So, kind of like the Salian family running the fairground sort of analogy. They have people who will, sweep the streets up pretty much. Anything that's, wet can just be, throw some dust on it and push it off to a corner, and it'll either just, dry up and blow away or become part of the local architecture. So, it's not too hard to deal with. Although, yinglets are, like the people, are pretty used to, like, if you crap in the middle of the street, someone's going to punch you in the face or something. So, find an alley or something.
Yeah. Go out of the way. So, Gyro, says this might get into spoilers, but if there are any safe examples, oh dear. Are there any technologies in the society of the comic that we haven't seen in the comic yet? like not elevators or wire weave, that are more advanced than people would expect. Like if Southern Swamp Yinglets are doing electroplating or something like that.
I'd say the most that has been confirmed is in that one field guide about what the antiquities are, and that's about as. So it is known that there was a period of, some higher, at least technological, well, not like tech, but more in terms of, they judge us based on creations. Like, hey, people used to be able to make some like really good, strong tensile wire. Now there's only that one in factory in Barrymore that
Freaking
they're not.
Barrymore.
Yeah, they got a lot of stuff going on, but yeah, I'm not making any sort of a secret. Like, it's pretty common knowledge to the people of this world that things were better before some things got worse. We kind of lost track of what happened, and we're getting back to that. But hey, some people left some things sitting around, so we know that we were at least capable of a bit more greater things. But also, there's no signs of old cities and things like that. Even if you build up, like some 10-person sheep herders village, there's going to be stone walls and, foundations of houses and stuff that are going to stick around for thousands of years. They haven't found any of those, so that's kind of the big question.
How much of the comic is like Berserk? No, I'm joking. Okay, so next question. Pancake. Pancake was asking about your rats.
Yeah. Well, as of about the middle of last year, my great rat empire finally laid its last one to rest. They were all very well loved and spoiled incredibly, but yeah, for various reasons, it was just about it was about time for the dynasty to end. Right now, I just have a single big fangy cat. And
oh gosh, your
maybe
cat.
rats again. Yeah, I love that dude. He has been randomly biting me while I've been talking here, though. I don't know if he wants attention or if I haven't fed him yet, but he's
Poor
just
puppy.
biting me.
Poor thing. He is such a sweetheart. I think he's got to be like half Maine Coon or Pipeline King or something.
Yeah, he's half American Longhair, half Maine Coon. He's a big boy, and he's got these ridiculous fangs that are so big that they poke out of his mouth, and if his lips have kind of curved around them.
You should post some
picture or
pictures.
something.
Oh yes, everybody would die of adorableness. Related to the spin-off comics, Freaking Pasta says, "Oof, there are already some very good fan-made spin-offs like Learn to Live by Umbrascythe. Do you consider some of these canon?"
All right. Well, this kind of comes back to my very open definition of the word canon. Basically, I make it very clear for anybody who's putting in that much work to make a comic that's based in the the setting that I made. It's flattering, and also I want them to be able to work with the best information they can. So I let them know, hey, if you're ever wondering about what would happen in this case, or how far Yinglets have gone in this case, or basically I give them as much info as I can to get their story as close to canon as it is.
Without spoiling stuff, because
Yeah, pretty much. Like there's some stuff that I just can't straight up tell them, this is the case, use this, because that's going to spoil something that's going to happen like 3 years down the line or something like that. So, but yeah, as it is, I'm in constant contact with them and helping them keep them at their stories as canon as they want, which is they seem to really hold that to be of pretty high importance.
Also, there is the aspect of like, canons. They're each canon to their own, and one of the things that I love about you as a creator is that you are very, very supportive and enthusiastic about fan works, whether it's like green text stories or fan doodles to comics to Rule 34 to pretty much anything. Like, I think that's one big reason that Out of Placers is as is as revered, beloved as it is. And there are not many creators like you.
I mean, I just love people being interested enough in this setting to want to do their own stuff with it. I mean, that's like, it feels kind of like fan art in that sense. Who doesn't like getting that sort of stuff? It's somebody else's take on something, even if it's not canon or something. It's just great to see. So yeah, I love those.
I think the 34 aspect also is, not to get into too many details because I'm trying to keep this relatively safe for, but I'm not certain of many artists who have actively encouraged or supported that kind of work involving their characters and such, which I think that's something extra special. Yeah. So, next question goes by Morris the Wizard. Was Isher's design inspired by the old Integral drawing you made?
All right, so that is actually connected to the other question about Legendary Legend. That very first comic that I wrote for and my college roomie drew for, that was, well, kind of an early version of Legendary Legend, which actually ran in the campus newspaper for not quite a year, but we kept it going for a little while. But it was a really small operation. So, but anyway, yeah. So that was one of the earliest ideas that the idea of there's a character called Rixis who's she is kind of like an elf, has elf ears, but also has a single horn in her forehead. And yeah, that sounds familiar, right? It was actually a design that Steven, the artist, came up with. And since I just ended up, much later when I decided I want to tell stories, but I can't draw, how about I use an RPG maker or something to tell the story? Like just kind of program in all the pages I had written for it to be told in that sense. And at the end of that summer, I realized, wow, I should really just learn to draw. And that's kind of what started this whole thing. I took a class it was literally like a $40 community college course free to anyone called You Can Draw! ! Turns out I could. But yeah, that's like some parts of Isher's design are kind of homage to that old original first character that actually, it was a character that I kind of added a lot more sort of personality to when I started doing the little RPG project. So there's actually like two half-elven, horned sisters in that game, and I kind of combined them to create a character that would eventually become Isher, but personality-wise, extremely different. Also, like aside from having long ears, a horn, and a tail, aside from that, yeah, those are, Isher is entirely unique aside from those. But it's just the fact that ever since I've been making comics in one capacity or another, that's just been one of those old standbys that's almost nostalgic in a way. So, yeah, that's there is a little bit of that, first original character all those years back. And I'm sure the Legendary Legend game itself is still up on a bunch of little sites. It's mainly like the combat system isn't that great. It's kind of short, but pretty short. But if you like the humor and Out of Placers, then there's just a lot of that in there. I spent a whole summer on it, and it got some sort of award on RPG Maker site a bunch of years back. But yeah, if you want to go and play it, then just auto combat everything. Unless you really want to get into it, it's pretty easy in that sense. It's mainly to get you from scene to scene. But yeah.
Oh, I guess that addresses the legendary legend thing question that Silly Zed has. Shayna Vaughn or Valselia says, this is a very important question, Val. How was your day?
Oh, I answered that. Very hot. I live in Texas, and actually, there were clouds today, so it was actually under 100 for a few hours.
You need to come up to New Mexico where it's not bad. Just don't go over to Arizona where I found out Phoenix charges you extra money, like during the hottest part of the day for having air conditioning on, which is nonsense. Anyways,
well, no, it makes perfect sense because they know that there's a higher demand for it. Yeah. Whether or not it's, evil or not is a different question.
Well, also, everyone who has gone so far that I've missed, thank you, y'all, for being here. And those who have been, well, I guess Val has addressed that. So Leal Scott says, what is the agreement between the Baker and the Oracle?
Oh, well, yeah, originally he was just having, loud humping sessions all hours of the night and the day just above on his roof. And the Baker would go up there and chase him off with a broom every so often. But one day, he chased him a little too hard. He fell off the roof, broke his legs. And, Baker still hated him, but he was just looked all pathetic down there. And basically, he lets him stay up there now, as long as he keeps the humping hours to mostly during the daytime.
Yeah. Dragon Myth goes, if I can ask about weapons, since Cass likely can't use the ball and chain, or, well, not well, any thoughts to going to something like a sling or any sort of ranged weapon, really?
You're going to get an answer to that in comic within the next 3 pages.
Oh shit! I get surprised. I know like a bunch of stuff about the comic, yet Val continuously surprises me. Clarion Klaxon says, if you're familiar with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, how much would exposure to it absolutely ruin Lopin?
Now that is a question. Man. I really might not have any response to that. You've just completely taken me off guard with that one.
I'll answer. I'd say that Lopin would be the kind of person who would be like knowing all the words, doing all the call. I don't know how the Rocky Horror stuff goes, but I'm sure Lopin. I've seen it. Like once.
He would probably be confused and terrified at first, but then keep coming back to see it and memorize. Yeah, I can see that happening.
Yes. Finn says, are there any wacky artifacts that haven't been found yet? I'm sure there are.
Oh yeah, all over the place. It's, people are occasionally still digging them up, but even no matter how well something is built, if like, I don't know, take a modern handgun or something, if you bury it in some dirt for 500 years or something like that, you might be able to restore it. But
if it's an AK,
if you don't, it's
sorry.
Well, basically, yeah, there's not a lot of stuff that still works. So people might find some stuff, but it's just a warped hunk of metal, or it's some triangular thing that has a couple buttons that don't do anything. The chance of actually finding something that's still in working order is astronomically rare.
Twist it.
Yeah.
Pull it.
So they're around. It's just hard to make sense of them or, get any use out of them.
Our Opti wants to know if we'll be doing the time warp again. Sorry, I had to reference it.
To answer a question out of that, there will be some time skips in Nothing too long though. I don't want to leave too much of daily life taken out just to hurry the plot along.
25 years later. No,
Exactly.
Chryso wants to know, it's crossed out, but that the question's still there. Do yinglet eggs come out pointy end first or last like a bird? You know, Chryso, you missed out like sideways or other ways, but sorry.
Yeah, this one is, these are wider end first.
Front ways, back ways, underways. Turga,
Well, but they're also kind of leathery, so they do kind of squish when they're going through. So they're just squish shaped at first.
I still believe that yinglets are canonically pretty stretchy when it comes to that sort of thing, but that's me. That's not a can.
No, that's further canon. There's small things that pass large eggs.
Oh, there we go, y'all. Fan artists, keep this in mind. Tirga says, I'm under the impression that you have an interest in gender/psychology. If this is the case, when did this develop and was the comic involved? If it was, how so?
Oh yeah, I've been, reading all sorts of transformation stories for, not since I was a kid, but, for a long time. And so that's naturally given me a lot to think about in terms of themes and what's included and excluded in terms of stories that have those, for example, something that annoys me is when, somebody changes species or, sex or gender or whatever else completely. And then they're like, there's a, few pages where it's all about that. But then afterwards, it just continues on like nothing is, like we're completely used to that by now, when they would continue to be having those moments just for a long time and experiencing a lot of new, oh crap, I didn't think about this sorts of things. So, a lot of enjoying that sorts of, stories and media in general has both given me ideas, a lot of stuff to think about, and also a lot of thoughts of, I wish they had included more about this or done it this way. And, that's a big part of this comic. Yeah, telling the kind of story I myself would like to see more of.
Exactly. That's kind of one of the, if you want to see it, tell it. I know the question wasn't necessarily directed at me, but here I'm hitting the mic, sorry. But I started reading transformation stuff when I was like 6 or 7. I think by the time I was 8, I was reading Jack L. Chalker's Well-World series. And for those familiar with Jack L. Chalker's work, you would know why that's kind of funny. Xanth book series.
As classic as it gets.
Yeah, I was all
there's
over.
like Kafka's The Metamorphosis, but that was...
No, I was a kid.
Oh yeah, Rapti got started way before I did.
Oh gosh, yeah. Yeah. So, Cars wanted to know if the Q&A is being recorded. Yes, it is. There is something, jumping back to the poop question, I think this one was kind of silly, but it's like, so no tiny porta potties all over? I would assume not. Maybe it's one of the lost relics or something. Magpie wants to know, how many yinglets can I give shelter to before I get into trouble?
That's currently, there's no hard rule for that because that hasn't really been able to happen, at least in terms of the era that the comic takes place. But there's no set amount, I don't think, unless it becomes known, okay, this person is becoming the new king of the yinglets, like you're the old man who runs the pickpocket gang in Oliver Twist or something. Then the local enclaves are going to be like, okay, you're stealing our population. This is definitely a thing now. We need to at least come to some sort of understanding or just get you to stop.
I turned a silly joke question into a real one. I have power. Teether wants to know, Val, what do enclaves do when they have an egg hatch that is a female, but also an odd one?
Those, it depends on the oddity, because sometimes that can be a major step forward, even if it's not specifically useful, like a weird shade of hair or something, then they'll usually try and keep that around a little, because the females that an enclave has determines a lot of its culture, because it also determines a lot of its gene pool and personality type, stuff like that.
There's Sally's non-Euclidean face. Sorry, poor Sally. But yeah, keep going.
But yeah, I'm just looking at, man, Cayenne is doing a lot of art.
Oh, y'all are awesome.
It's art. It qualifies.
My philosophy is anything that you work on that you consider to be art is art. I mean, it's a creative expression of yourself. It's art.
Yeah, good point. I agree with that.
The only person...
What was just asked?
It was... Oh gosh, this is what happens when everyone who works on this comic has ADHD.
Yeah.
If chat can remind us, unless you guys all have... Oh god, we all have ADHD. Oh no, this is the worst timeline. Or best timeline? Oh, about the odd one in the females.
Oh yeah. So yeah, as long as it's not... Well, actually, let's just take Lippy as an example. She could come close to qualifying, as she has just an astounding rate of being able to memorize things, but also she's a nervous, twitchy chihuahua. So in this kind of case, where that oddity would be not a good thing, or like maybe just a little genetically messed up, then one of two things tends to happen. Either they get paired with kind of mutts who have generally kind of stronger, more reliable genes, and hope that they can, those will balance out some of the misfiring DNA strands of the odd one. But if, too many duds or other odd ones, bad odd ones are coming out, then usually they'll regulate or relegate that particular female to more... other roles around the enclave, less the breeding sort.
Sorry, I was talking about Baxid and Yinglet ASMR. God, imagine a Baxid ASMR channel. Anyways,
just like look for some of those channels that have like ultra low frequency noise that you can barely hear, but makes your brain feel wavy after a few minutes or something.
Because I'm the ultimate at plugging things. Because I'm the ultimate at recommending things, for that, I will recommend mynoise.net, which is, by the way, fantastic website. Again, no sponsorship, no affiliation or anything, just something I like to use. Raid Chatelize, no. But yeah, this is a really good site for getting good background noises, white noises. It's really cool. I recommend checking it out for people who are looking for something calming or interesting. Next question.
Just a note.
Oh, sorry.
Clarion says Basil sounds like pure ASMR in my head.
ASMR.
He's kind of like, imagine a sort of a smooth jazz DJ radio or DJ, just much higher pitched. But he does have that kind of low, smooth, for his small size sort of feeling.
I love Lemonlet. It's a shame Lemon's not here, because Lemonlet does like some of the best Yinglet voices, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, Lemon's some really good stuff.
Lemon's Basil is really good. So let's see. Finn says, in the last few comics, you show what appears to be Elam's first kill. Was this when they first fled, or did they run when they saw the Danish army get decimated? And this is weeks later.
That's when they first fled. It wasn't even a week after their desertion. At that point, they're still within the home country, haven't topped the borders yet. And the rest of that, we're going to get more info on as the story goes on.
Dale Scott says, related to the odd ones question, how odd is it acceptable for a female? Not Sailor Gene Fuck should be at least mostly normal, like Fiona or something in between. And does that influence how often they're given mates?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And what kind? Usually, if they have a bit of a deficiency in some way, they'll usually get paired up with males that are kind of strong in the area that they're weak. Because, yeah, yinglet genes are a huge mix up. So you can, even if you have a female that does kind of have some problems, you can balance that out. It really, how far is too far is it really just determined by a few years of breeding and seeing how well that turns out.
Let's see. Next question. Oh gosh. Let's see if I can get this one correct. Gear says, "Hey Val, have you ever heard of Orusu Uchigun Onimasa no Tsubasa? It's a film, Royal Space Force, The Wings of Onimis, I don't know. It had some neat world design for an alien civilization on its journey into space exploration."
Absolutely. Gainax has done a lot of good stuff over the years, but a lot of people forget just how unique its first film was. But yeah, that's while I didn't like take specific inspiration from it, that the way that it portrays in a civilization that is not ours, it's alien in so many ways, but is just indisputably human in ways that, like, yeah, same sorts of experiences, same sorts of, like, they have these kind of stuffy, strange ceremonial funeral wear with these, giant feathers and all that. But even the people wearing them think, man, these things are kind of gaudy, aren't they? But yeah, that is very much the way I want to portray humans and the civilization of this planet, in that, very, very understandable, very, hey, this could just be us, but, with a culture that developed differently, different sense of style and things like that. But yeah, love that film.
I myself have not seen it, and I'm still wondering why I tried again reading it in Japanese. Um, oh, yeah, it's something I posted about English. That was for reminding. Morris says, "Who is the most evil character in Oops?" If you ask me, it's me personally. I feel that the most evil character in Out of Placers is Poke. But what's your answer?
Hard to say. I mean, while I do love an infuriatingly evil for the sake of evil villain, when it's done well, I mean, Bracca's an asshole, but he's also mainly just an asshole as
Best
opposed
boy.
to, like, yeah. But there are going to be antagonists in the story, but I don't think there's any straight up evil for the sake of being evil. I mean, like, even the Bellatons, who are have a kind of a strong honor culture of chasing down and quote unquote executing deserters. Even they, have their own reasons for doing it. It's like they're sparing those people their own shame for, anything can be quote unquote for the greater good.
The greater good.
Once your culture's strong enough. But also, this isn't going to be a comic where every antagonist character is, just misunderstood or has a tragic past. So straight up evil. I mean, a couple of the dead Salias, but that's just on account of them being nobility, and nobility just gets like that every generation or two.
Nobility does what nobility does. Actually, the unambiguously most evil character is still going to be Fred Viercoy, as posted in the Discord there. Okay, let's see. Oh, looking for more questions now. Scrolling down, scrolling down. I saw a bunch coming up later on. Oh, joke question. If you were to make a ring out of clams, would it give you the magical ability to control yinglets?
In a sense, because I mean, it gives you the magical ability of goods-oriented persuasion. It's why, gold has been a pretty good way to get people to do anything throughout history.
Next question. By Clarion Klaxon, has Peckett experienced a hard-hitting character death or something similar in her readings? If not, how bad is it going to be?
She hasn't. Well, she hasn't read like much of what would consider like classic literature, like I don't know, Treasure Island, classic novels, those kinds of things. Mostly what she's had access to are things like fairy tales, although some of those have just gruesome endings by themselves. But she also knows very well the boundaries between stories in real life, which is actually kind of unusual for a Yinglet. But first time she experiences a hard-hitting character death, it's probably gonna hit her exactly the way that it was written to be. Like she might be crying while she's reading it, but at the end she'll think, that was a really good story.
So she's like a real people's when it comes to that.
Yeah. She wouldn't be the type so much to be like scarred or obsessed over like if she played Final Fantasy VII, she would be,
spoiler alert,
tragically devastated by Aerith dying, but she wouldn't be the kind of person that would think about it months later and have a shrine to Aerith on her wall, that kind of thing.
Oh, let's see. Next question. Related by Scott. How many books has Peckett read?
It's so far been that I want to say something around like 20. She's reread a lot of the ones that she's had access to before, and because they weren't sure if they were ever going to see these books that they lent out to this Yinglet, she got a lot of things like some random dead noble's memoirs or like construction techniques, stuff like that. So she's actually only just now, as we're seeing her kind of pilfer the library at the Teeth. This is going to be her first like really quality library run, I think.
Oh, I think we all remember our first quality library run. Well, actually, here, quick fun story. It was a couple of years ago. I was wanting to get a book, and I was like, I wish there was a free way for me to get books because I couldn't afford it. And it literally took me several minutes before I realized, oh, wait, well, libraries are still a thing. And they're apparently still doing pretty well. So, y'all remember, libraries are a thing.
I'll tell you, the vast majority of my, learning to draw situation came, oh man, you people are really just destroying my train of thought here.
Yeah, this is mine. I have official edit powers because I have access to the original stuff. So
hold on, let me save this. Gee, I love torturing my Yings.
Yinglets are fair. You're doing a GI, not mine. Oh, I see. I misunderstood.
Well, that one I've already seen. You've already scarred me with those.
Yinglet elevator. Sure. See. Wait. Did we answer a question? Crap, I can't remember.
No, I was just saving.
Was there
a question? Something I had a response to. Yeah, what was it? Oh, right. I was saying, it was libraries, and I was saying learning to draw, like 90% of that was actually just me driving up to my local library and turning my laptop on to random, there's a lot of good life drawing, both courses or just, things that'll show people at different angles, different poses, change it up every 20 seconds or so to get yourself used to speed drawing. It really, being in a library, not only is there that sense of sort of studiousness, but also if you're away from your home where, you can easily turn on a video game or watch a show or something. It, if I wanted to do that, I needed to drive 10, 15 minutes home. So being in that sort of environment, I would highly recommend to anybody who wants to draw. It really helps just crunching out figure drawing so well.
Yep, always do life drawing because it's important. Like, super
Yeah, no
important.
matter how anthro or strange you do, if you understand human life drawing, you understand anatomy, you understand the way muscles work, and that can be extrapolated to just anything.
The mod, just anatomy. Anyways, so Brian says, speaking of Belatin, do they have a flag, heraldry, or iconography of sorts?
Oh yeah, I answered that one in text.
Oh, sorry. What was the answer for those who don't have text?
Yeah, it's of a couple of Belatin soldiers chasing down a cowardly deserter with a rake.
Okay.
That is not actual canon, just to be sure.
But yeah. But do they have any iconography or anything?
Yeah, we just haven't seen their main armies in the comic yet.
All right. Teether says, question: do Baxid and Yinglets ever interact? Do Baxids ignore them?
It's interesting. Like, common relations are one that's definitely going to be in the comic because how could it not? But yeah, Baxids generally see Yinglets as less. They're like humans, but less good, less useful, less reason for them. Like, they have hands, but they don't use them for anything. And there are these kind of, they're not as dexterous and nimble. They're also smaller, and their voices are just really screechy and annoying. And so, like, they're there, but they won't usually interact with them unless they have good reason to. Although there are some Baxid and, Yinglets who are good friends for various reasons. They have hands and can, skitter around anywhere and, itch anywhere on you, even if, I'm not sure if giant alien bone worms itch much, but anyway, yeah, some little weird relationships have occurred between them, but as it is, they're still, even the, Yinglets being interacting with humans and human cities and all that is still historically kind of new. So in the era of the comic, that's something else that's just being kind of felt out in its early days.
Oh, it was pointed out. It's actually been about 2 hours. So let's see if anyone has any last minute questions. There's still some queued up, but see if we can get through these fairly fast.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm still energetic and everything. So
well, in that case, we'll keep going.
Yeah.
We'll just keep going. Val, I don't know what energizes him. I think it's that love and community of all of you guys provides Val the nourishment needed.
So much I cannot communicate.
Actually, literally, because
also
of
after
Patreon.
Yeah. But also after I've been, talking for a while, it just kind of self-sustains energy. It's got my just got my energy up and everything, and everybody's here getting all these answers pounded out. So yeah, let's keep going for a while.
If it is all right, I would like to take I'm going to take a brief 5-minute break. I need to take care of some quick business. I'll be right back if that's okay. You just go free
sure. Oh yeah, I love that piece, Goofins. It it really kind of encapsulates the way I see most Baxid and Yinglet interactions going. Let's see. I'll just move down the list here. Okay. What was Vizslet's life before becoming matriarch? She's like a bit of an exercise in opposites. She's on one hand, takes being a matriarch very seriously, very studious. It's, why she got picked early on and groomed to be matriarch, but also a bit of a rebel. Like she wasn't one of the pretty girls when she was young, and she kind of kept that with her, and let some of that resentment fuel a bit of a rebellious streak. It's when she convinced the others in her enclave to actually let her travel around and apprentice in human art crafts and stuff. That took a lot of convincing to do, but she was very annoying about it. So yeah, she got to do that. But so on one hand, yeah, you know from her personality in the comic that she takes the culture and future of her species very seriously, but is also kind of shaking the bars a bit. And she's just always been like that. Let's see what else. Yeah, Liao. That's specifically one reason that it's so fun to draw Goth Vizsla, because Goth isn't a culture that has that exists in this comic, but in modern day, she absolutely would have had a Goth phase hard.
Yes, I am back. Sorry, I had to take care of business. I am technically still recovering from surgery. Anyways, okay. Went over that question. Leo Scott says, have Inglets figured out any methods of farming clams yet?
Yes, that's actually pretty important to. Well, I mean, it helps that their ocean is just teeming with them. So it's as long as they stay by the coastline, they don't have to do much to keep them from coming back. It's actually really hard to fight off these clam or other just general. There's a pretty predatory bivalve population down there that kind of keeps everything else from growing. So they're rarely at a lack of availability. But if they're inland, well, anywhere inland, they almost exclusively settle on rivers and lakes. But yeah, there are cases where they'll, for whatever reason, decide, okay, screw our whole evolution thing. Let's try and go for an entirely dry land sort of solution. Then usually there'll be, well, I mean, you can't live anywhere there isn't a fresh water source. So whether they, are beachside or somewhere on the river or further inland, they'll just, dig clam beds. And these things reproduce pretty quickly. So as long as they're, keeping a fair population of them, and really the biggest issue, they don't have to do much to keep them, fed and all that. The only real issue is keeping them guarded by guards who themselves won't eat too many of the clams. So it helps that they are very easily farmable and actually a bit of an ocean pest.
Yeah, easy XP. Can farm them all day.
Yeah. But wherever they are, they generally, well, one, can't live without major water sources. If they, specialize for that, then, they might be able to live in much drier areas. But yeah, currently there's not a lot of complication when it comes to clam and oyster farming and all that.
Oh, to answer Silly Zealot's question, it wasn't surgery for anything bad. It was pretty major, but long recovery time. But I mean, I can answer questions in another the Gender Talkings channel at some point if anyone's ever curious. So, question by our losers is, what was Vizslat's life like before becoming a matriarch?
Oh yeah, that one I answered myself right before you came back. It's the only one I answered.
What was the answer? Briefly.
Oh, it was that, she's a bit of a exercise in opposites, in that she's pretty rebellious against the culture, but also takes it very seriously, very studious, and why she got groomed for being a matriarch early on.
Oh. Okay, so next question. Would a yinglet, sorry, this is by Gear, would a yinglet ride a Baxid?
They would, whether or not, the Baxid asked for it.
Next question, because of oh, jeez. Silly Zealot asks, Rapti, why do you love the idea of female Ran so much? Um,
Yeah, Rapti.
oh,
I've I've wondered this for a long time,
oh no.
but I mean, it's easy to keep Rapti happy because I can just make female Ran picks or something if I want Rapti to, you know, hey, give me half your bank
Uh,
account. I'll
um,
give you a female Ran picks.
yeah, yeah. So I think, so I was reading Out of Placers, and I ended up getting a big crush on Ran in the comic. But I was like, it was sorry, tongue tied. But it was like for me, it's weird because Ran was a guy, and I'm not really into guys, but I still had a huge crush on Ran. And personality, a lot of similar interests, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a female headcanon version of Ran because I'm a hopeless disaster lesbian. That's the
And it
answer.
doesn't hurt that,
Oh, I
Ren
just saw what
isn't as
Abby said. Sorry, I said the disaster lesbian right before I read what Abby says.
there you go. But yeah, it also helps that Ren, isn't femmy exactly, but it also isn't the most, masculine, not specifically androgynous, but also he does, like to dress up in fancy outfits, like to keep his hair nice. But yeah, not anywhere near Lopin's level. So
Yeah,
I think it's a lot easier for to be into a character in that sense if they're a bit more androgynous.
I'm okay. I'm trying not to ramble because this is a question that yeah. So let's see if I can stop blushing and answer and ask read the next question. Shinavarnar Valselia says, "Who's the tallest Yingling?"
Let's see. Well, Poke, but that's also because he is a literal giant for his species.
There's Dima
So he's
too.
tall, but he's tall, but he's also just big overall. But aside from Poke and a few of his sons, there aren't a huge amount that gotten anywhere near his size. Dima the guard is, I think, his largest son, but still not quite as large as Poke. But in terms of just height of regular yinglets, well, it depends. Basil is a long boy, so if he's standing on his tiptoes and pointing his nose up, then he might be taller, but by default, the tallest in the Enclave is Fina.
Really? I also have a
Yep,
disaster lesbian
she's a
crush
tall
on
girl.
Fina. It's Fina, remember?
That's right.
Yeah, Fina is my favorite of the Yinglets in the Enclave. Gosh, I guess it's similar kind of thing because she's not quite like butch or anything, but she's very, I don't know. I'm not gonna ramble. Okay, so next question. Teether says, how old is Vizsla?
That's another one of those things that, like the exact age, I'm keeping a little Terry Pratchett on, but she's, in terms of maturity, like if we were to compare her to a human, she's probably in her like mid 40s,
So Vizsla is also
maybe early
somebody I have a
50s.
crush. Okay, let's keep going. The characters in this.
I try to make them crushable.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Uh, Little Napoleon says, "Hey Val, what's your favorite visual novel?" And also wants to know when the Oops visual novel is going to be. Actually, if I can answer the latter question first. So I'm currently lead dev on that, and as I am getting a bit more free time thanks to the help of our colorists, that's something I'm going to be looking into resuming more active development on. Currently looking into engine options. Apparently, Unreal Engine 5 has some really good plugins, or not plugins, whatever, add-ons, whatever it's called, for doing visual novel stuff. And I know that Epic gives money, grants to people for free sometimes if they're small indie things. Anyways, it's not going to be done for a while, but I'll try to keep active updates when that's going. But yes, Val, what's your favorite visual novel?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not sure if there's an absolute number one, because I enjoy a few in a few different ways. I mean, for example, like I was saying before, I absolutely love Berserk. But also, that's, I would say, like it's also dark fantasy, Japanese fiction. So that's going to be very much something of on
Bye,
its own.
Koof.
Just in terms of, oh, hey, thanks for stopping by, Koof.
That's your job, Koof. Sorry.
Just in terms of a novel I would recommend to, anybody, just even if they haven't read graphic novels.
Visual novel.
I've probably gotten the most.
Sorry.
Right. Or,
so it's an interactive
anything
game.
of that sort. Oh, wait, visual. Oh, I was going to say Transmetropolitan otherwise, but visual novel.
I don't think
I haven't played a huge amount, although I did play the ripped and translated early version of the first Tsukahime game, which is the predecessor to the whole Fate series, which I'm glad,
Clarion.
really glad that company's brought on the way it is. But I'm just trying to remember the ones I have.
While you're doing that, Clarion, have you, Clarion Klaxon, I hope you've seen the one, or the playthrough done by Michaela, the lady who voices, the main character, because my brain's starting to fry out a bit. She does the best playthrough because of how she voices it. Yeah, it's a thing. I think it's Michaela Law. I'll link it, but there's more coming out too. I know there's sequels planned to it. There's a lot more coming out.
Oh yeah, I will say, and yeah, this is very specific to Little Napoleon, and I'm not saying this just because, this is his project, but I played the first demo chapter of Jesse's storyline on Changeling Tale, which is the visual novel that him, WhatsApp, and a bunch of other the dorks are working on right now. They're just about done with the main three plot lines, but played the first chapter of that, and I already knew, okay, once I get into this, I'm not going to be able to put it down until it's done. So I've actually been keeping myself away from it. I'll watch, the discussions about it or some of the art being made, but I'm waiting for the main base game to be released before I finally, plunge in and do it proper. Because just from that one chapter I played, I knew, this is going to be on my mind for weeks after I've finished it. This is something I'm going to want to marathon, and I'm not going to want to stop and wait for the next one to come out. So all these years I've been holding off because I want to experience it the best way I can.
For the people who are wondering, this is a very, very, very adult game.
Oh yeah, totally. But also, I think, not only just great as a visual novel,
but I have to do a disclaimer.
Oh yeah. But also, it's majorly transformation based, and the writing in it, the way it just goes into all these little details. Like, people are saying they like the way I really go into the details of what different parts are like, what experiences change, things like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you want that, go play Changeling Tale, Little Napoleon. It's just, very much that sort of thing.
Given the nature of the stage, I'm not able to link to it, but it is something that I recommend people check out. Just look up the Little Napoleon on Patreon, and it'll pull you over to that. So let's see here. Yeah, because Discord has terms of service that we have to abide to while we're doing stages. So let's see here. Here, visual novel. Oh,
Yeah, saw a few other good ones pop up.
Yeah, more solicit says, do yinglets have kids in batches or just timed eggs to hatch at a similar time?
You mean like between different yinglets? Like they don't, for example, have this time of the month, all the females are laying. It's very much an on and off again sort of thing where, one female's like, okay, yeah, I've had enough time to rest, got some nourishment back in me. I'm all built up. All right, ready to go for another one. And so it really just depends on whenever is convenient, whenever things kind of come together. So yeah, the amount of eggs and younglets that there are at any given time is going to be pretty random.
Yeah, sorry, you rolled 2d20 and that's how many eggs you have. Glizzy Guzzler says, will there ever be a yinglet big enough to become a rideable mount? And I'm going to add on the follow-on. How much will be charged for this DLC? And will we also have yinglet mount armor as a DLC option?
Man, that would change up their society a lot. I mean, they'd probably breed the hell out of him to try and get a race of super giants to either to ride themselves if they're not too intelligent, or
how would they ride
I don't know. On the other hand, that might cause some sort of racial civil war,
like the Deza War.
Yep.
I don't know how a yinglet could ride itself. That seems like it would be very anatomically difficult.
No, I mean, Lily Ying's riding the big Yings. And,
yeah, you know I was too. Let's see. Zing says, question, does Cass feel much differentiation between his species and gender dysphoria, or does he clump them together at current time?
At current time, they're very much clumped together, and he's only actually started experiencing specifically female things when he visited the egg chamber and all that. But so far, it's just been, okay, yeah, he has boobs right now, but also he has new everything else. So that hasn't really stood out to him too much. It's really the biggest difference in terms of the gender issue is how he's been treated by other yinglets who treat him kind of like, bit of their nobility caste, always like, they're always think, oh yeah, female. Okay, they like it when we call her pretty or talking about eggs and all that. And Cass is not like that. But yes, currently it's all kind of bunched together. But the longer time goes on, it's starting to get more, specific.
Oh, I apologize, Clarion. I missed your question earlier. Wow, 20 minutes ago. Clarion says, on the subject of relationships, are there any healthy human yinglet relationships in this world yet? Lil Bish is an inspiration, but he has boundary issues.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Or seeing the question earlier. Pretty rare currently, but there are actually a few. Like, there's a bunch of just like street kids who grew up with street yinglets who are just either best buddies or kind of family, and there's also a few like nobles who will like noble women who like their pets with benefits, for example. And, they won't make anything official out of that, but they'll, like prefer the company of ler pet yinglet to other suitors or like that. So there are in fact some relationships of that sort. And that's part of the reason that the Enclave got a bit of a censure a few years back. So, getting too buddy-buddy, we're supposed to keep to ourselves. It's a time of major changes.
Yeah, that didn't catch me off surprise. Why'd you have to say female? Anyways, I think you're doing your...
Well, mainly because if you're going to see yinglet outside of the Enclave, it's almost definitely going to be a male. Like, if... Enclaves will know where their females are at all time. Would like any kind of visits with humans would be strictly supervised. in the future, it's something that could happen more often, but you know,
This is
early
where
days.
I will campaign for more Yinglet human female relationships. This is important. Yes, we're gonna vote on it. No. Canvas. Is that the word? No, that's what you do for voting. Anyways, sorry. Our loser says, will you make any more animations like the ones showing how Yinglets move from a few years ago?
Oh yeah, I'd kind of been meaning to, since some of those are kind of rough by comparison, and I've really kind of refined the Yinglet design since then. So actually, since there have been some 3D models out, I'm actually pretty good at 3D animation. So once I find the time, I'd really like to do a few things like, a 3D basic Yinglet walk cycle, because with the 3D rig, you can really show in terms of, in realistic detail, the way they would shift their weight, move around, and just little things like the way they would look around, the particular way they twitch and blink when they're at a standstill. It's really clear in my head, and I'm pretty good at, moving things from my head onto a screen. So that's something I've been kind of wanting to do in the background for a while now.
I mentioned in the chat, yeah, I apologize if I'm a little bit more loopy. My medication is starting to wear off a bit, so. Oh, no, Tewam, I am actually not on Adderall. I am on Disoxin, which is, you can look, it's essentially prescription methamphetamine. It's pretty good stuff. It is the strongest ADHD medication available, and I'm at the highest maximum dose. And I'm still considered to be officially disabled on it. So I've got real bad ADHD, like real bad.
Ironically, I've tried both Adderall and Disoxin, and between the two, the Disoxin actually has much less of a sort of rush. Or, I mean, like looking at meth heads on the street, I was expecting it to be much more, but that turns out is what happens when you take non-prescription recommended doses of Disoxin. So, ironically, you actually feel it a lot less than like the equivalent of Adderall. Lately, I've been trying some non-stimulant type meds, and it's working pretty well for me.
Just real quick, because this is a brief tangent topic I'm passionate about, and we'll get back to the questions. But with this, so Disoxin is methamphetamine. Again, it is like the street stuff in that, but it's the same substance, but it's completely pure, and the effective therapeutic dose is 5 milligrams compared to the recreational dosage, which I believe is about 250 milligrams. With Adderall, the therapeutic and recreational dosage are about the same. So you won't get, like, the thing with Disoxin that makes people struggle with it often is that they don't feel a rush from it or anything like that. And it kind of goes up and wears down very subtly. Methamphetamine hydrochloride. Dextroamphetamine is known as Dexedrine. That medication I was on, I required such a high dosage that I had extraordinarily horrible side effects, and I had to deal with that for a while with an insurance dispute. But yeah, my ADHD is extremely severe. Okay, so getting back to the question, sorry. Morris the Wizard says, where is Lopeman keeping the outfits people are making him?
Oh, he has a little room. It used to be a closet, but he thinks it is very. It's like the first place of living. I mean, he's had like dwellings and places he'd hide his stash and stuff to trade, but it's the first proper like home he's had, and that's where he puts his stuff. Although the dress he gave back to Ran.
Oh, sorry. Did anybody transcribe Ulrich's question from earlier? I know I requested since. Goodness, I'm trying to remember what the question was. But yeah, I wasn't able to type out the answer. But if anybody can, that was. Oh gosh, sorry, going back. So I made a promise that we would do that. If Abby, if you would be, because I know you type real fast, Abby. Let me look for the question now. Scrolling up. Sorry, filling dead air. This is my call center training kicking in. Aha, found it. I will pin the message again. There we go. And trying to remember what the answer was.
Yeah, scrolled up and saw one here, so I'll just go ahead and answer this one. Teether asks, has a female yinglet ever laid an unfertilized egg, and what are the social repercussions for laying one? Basically, they don't have those too often because that means that, like, the female's been kind of shirking their breeding duties. I mean, not really. They're assigned by the matriarch, but that just means like there weren't any good candidates or just whatever. It's basically seen like wasted potential, but it's hardly ever their fault or anything. So it's just like, whatever, try and get fertilized next time.
Now, if there was a female yinglet, say hypothetically, who wasn't assigned to breeding, what would happen in that case?
Keep reading to find out.
Dun 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 dun. There. Oh, wow, that's actually a little bit of a tease. Nice one. But trying to remember Abby, sorry. Val answered the question about do enclaves all abide by the same, structure and kind of culture, and are they all under the supervision of the Council of the Inglets that was down south? And also want to know if there are war and skirmishes between enclaves. And Val, if you could just give a very succinct answer to that.
Oh, to the
Yeah, we didn't get the question or the answer transcribed earlier.
Okay, yeah, that one was it's what's acceptable ranges or differences from the main culture is kind of kept in check by the traveling census takers and kind of culture keepers. And wars haven't really, like, sometimes two enclaves that are pretty close to each other might have some healthy competition, but wars really don't happen, at least in this era.
All right. Oh gosh, going back up because that got me behind. Not that, I've got myself behind. Okay, let's see here. You guys get to watch me degenerate in real time. Okay, Ben says, will we get those? Oh, wait, nope, here we go, sorry. Sid Blacken says, how many more outfits can we expect of Lopin?
Yeah, most of them.
The Guardsman asks, Val, how long did you originally plan on making Out of Places comic? Was it going to be a one-off short transformation thing, or were you going to continue it regardless of popularity?
Well, originally it was going to be just a story I did for myself to keep myself drawing so that my drawing skills wouldn't get rusty again. But also I originally, in the first couple drafts of it, didn't have the whole transformation element. But either way, I don't know, I get the feeling the length has probably increased as it's, gotten popular, more fleshed out, and I realized there's a lot more I could do with it. But it was always meant to be an ongoing comic, like at least 5 or 6 years. So, it has definitely gone that long.
That's what she's... Okay. Fenn goes, will we get the story of Cass's Wire anytime soon?
You absolutely will. It might not be anytime, well, sometime soon, kind of maybe. But when we do, we'll also see... Well, you know what? I'll give you a tiny little tidbit here. He got that thing... this is back when he was, I want to say like 6 or 7 or something, and he was out with his family. His father said, hey, there's a caravan from Barrymore, the people who make all those crazy things coming up. And so he asked all his children, okay, you can have one thing each. and his siblings chose toys, things like that. Cass saw a huge heavy block suspended by a thin little piece of wire, and he was just fascinated by it. So, and his siblings got toys, he got a length of industrial woven steel wire. But yeah, we're going to see a lot more about his past, and that in particular, the things he did with the wire. He got creative, and also who his family was and everything. That's all going to be one section of the story.
Log, it's okay. Nadia Inklet says, where did Bizlet get her glasses from?
While she's really hoping to get some kind of glass making culture within the Inklet culture, they have all been made by humans with, by trading with the Enclave. She has 2 pairs currently, a smaller one and a more, well, the ones you've seen her with lately, the bigger ones.
Oh, let's see. Oh, Abby looks like missed the last half of the answer. If you can write down
what was previously, we got that.
Okay, did you get the transcribed things down for? Because I really want to make sure we get that taken care of.
Yeah, got that.
All right, Abby, as long as you're okay, like if you can write down what you remember, I'm brain foggy myself. Sorry. Let's see. Oh, Jaro wants to know what you think of. Jaro wants Jaro's Inklet Minecraft mod, and if he has any suggestions on it.
Well, I haven't played Minecraft in a while. I usually play a lot of it, then wait a number of years for stuff to come out. But the next time I play it, I'm absolutely going to be using the Inklet mod. I love all the screenshots I've seen from it, and it just makes me so happy to see that, you and other people are having fun with it.
Sorry, again, the reason I was mentioning the transcription again is because it looks like, because I know the person was kind of waiting on the answer. Let me see if I can try to summarize your answer to the Inklet war culture thing. You said there's census takers that kind of, what was?
Oh yeah, I'll just go over that quickly again. There are roving bands of, not bands, but delegations pretty much, who just are always traveling from enclave to enclave, and they take census, and they also kind of make updates to the birth script that the local matriarchs make for the various aspects that they use to describe the various lines and everything. And they make sure that they're the ones that bring back all the info about what's going on in the enclaves back to the central locations. So
the people down south do kind of run things in the other enclaves, basically.
Yeah, very much so. And
there hasn't been any war or anything in a while, correct?
No, it's the enclave system is very good at kind of using Inklet psychology to kind of bolster a very, hey, it's us versus the world, keep peaceful among yourselves sort of culture. Yeah.
So enclaves use Inklet psychology to help prevent war and encourage in-group thinking. Okay, so I'm trying to rephrase it to be easier to write down. Okay. So let's see. The guardsman says, do you think the story or your focus would change if a species other than Yinglets became massively popular from out-of-placers, like Baxter, etc.?
I've asked myself that, actually. As it is, the Yinglets, I did move up some parts of the story to get some questions answered that people were just dying to know. But I already plan on there being a fair amount of, representation of the other races, and, Janet. A lot of people have been wondering where she's been. We're about to get a lot of Janet. But yeah, I do. One thing I like about how I use anchor points to keep the major story kind of on path, but leave a lot of other things up to day-to-day decisions, is that I can tell, oh, people really like this character a lot more than I thought they would, and I can use this character to do these kinds of pages, so I'll include a little more of him. And I can make by the moment adjustments. And so if just a ton of people were like, holy crap, we need more Baxted stuff, yeah, I'd probably see if I can as long as it isn't shoehorned in and there's reason to have those pages, then yeah, I think I would. It's the main plot points are still going to be the main plot points and happen in the order they were, but it's one upside of not having absolutely everything written down long before you start.
Okay. Hazel, the original Hazlitt, says, where did Rand get the dress he dressed Lopin in?
There's a story behind that, and we're eventually going to have that revealed.
Dun, dun, dun. Next question. Ooh, I want to answer this one, because Teether wants to know how common are lesbian yinglets, and I know you and I have obviously had discussions about this one, where Val and I have had discussions about this one, but my understanding is that because being lesbian is not an act, it's a matter of attraction. They're not uncommon. They're not uncommon. They're not unheard of. If I remember correctly, Peckett and Fina were kind of attracted in regards to each other.
Sort of. So part of the reason it's hard to kind of make a hard translation of lesbian to yinglet is that, they have very different senses of relationships and sexuality. I mean, they don't even really have what we consider a family unit. It's more of just like the enclave, or
at least nowadays, yeah.
A lot of concepts like that don't just straight up translate. But as it is, they're a lot more sort of sexually open, males and males all the time. They even have two genders specifically for that. But as it is, since females are, kept cloistered away amongst themselves for most of their lives, stuff does happen, whether or not. But the thing is, to human women go at it, that's a thing. It's a relationship. It has a lot of extra societal baggage, or at least whenever you call somebody, hey, this is a lesbian couple, this is a lesbian relationship, females might just fool around and not think there's anything unusual about it.
Yeah,
they could think they're perfectly heterosexual, but just be like, oh yeah, no, we like having fun every so often, we're always together, so why not?
They can be perfectly heterosexual as a lesbian. I just want to state, it's not the actions one does, it's how kind of one really identifies. But it is hard to translate into straight up sexuality and such, as you mentioned. But yeah, I mean, there are female yinglets who are attracted to other female yinglets, I'm assuming.
Yeah, basically, I mean, a lot of the culture regarding sexuality is just strictly about breeding, since, that's a huge part of their culture. So, if it isn't male putting eggs in a female, it's usually not considered sex. So, honestly, as long as the females aren't, shirking their breeding duties and all that, then nobody really cares. They don't care about a lot of things.
Yeah, I think this might be one of those situations, because I do a lot of gender and sex studies and sexuality, and that's one of my big special interest things. I think the way I would put this is that, because one can be, you can be attracted romantically, sexually, whatever. Even there's that one word I forgot the name of, altruistically attracted to somebody else. But Yeah, I mean, if Yinglets don't really have the concept of lesbianism, then yeah, it's an interesting answer. I can say in my comics, which is one of the I put this, my character Beatrix was created with Val after consulting for Val for a while about what a Yinglet would look like, several hundred years down in the future, assuming that Vizslat's, plan and everything went through. And Beatrix is most definitely lesbian, but that's because different family unit structure, not enclaves as much, etc. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think we got fairly answery with that one.
Leo Scott says, on the ADHD front, would a human with ADHD that got zinged have double ADHD between that and the Yingletness, or would that stay basically the same? And would Yings react fairly similarly as humans do to ADHD drugs if those existed?
Oh, this is a fun one because, if there is a Yinglet ADHD, Lippy has it, but also they have different brains. So, the causes and effects of ADHD in a human brain, Yinglets might not even have the same synapses that, the same thing would cause the same thing. If they were naturally just kind of ADHD, they'd probably be a bit, slightly extra distractible and twitchy as a Yinglet, but also they would be among a population where that's pretty common. So it's hard to make a hard, again, translation between human brain conditions and Yinglet brain conditions, despite them both being intelligent species. Otherwise, they have some different brain parts.
Yeah, I would say that because again, another one of my autistic special interests is ADHD. I mentioned that earlier. Shit, that's kind of ironic.
Knows a lot about it.
But with this in particular, what Val says makes a lot of sense. Specifically, ADHD isn't like hyperactivity or distractibleness. It is an executive functioning disorder. Essentially, the way I put it, and one can see if this applies to Yinglets or not, is imagine if the things that you had, imagine your brain as a whiteboard, right? And if you needed something like a task, whatever you needed to have to get done, you'd write it on the whiteboard, right? So a lot of people have, pretty decent sized whiteboards. They can write down a bunch of tasks, kind of keep track of stuff. Somebody with ADHD has a small whiteboard. So they can usually only keep a couple tasks on that. And in order to have a new task assigned, you have to erase an old one. So the question, I guess, is, so with Yinglets, you'd be looking at what size are their mental whiteboards compared to other species would be one way of determining that. In my canon, again, Beatrix, once again being a modern evolution of Yinglets, since her brain structure is more in line with what we understand with humans to be a little bit more aligned, she does have ADHD, and she actually is on medication for it. And if people have read my comic, knowing that Beatrix acts the way she does, and being on ADHD medication should be kind of funny. But it kind of depends. Another answer, sorry. Second, Ying says, question, does Cass have anything he likes about being a Yinglet? Or anything? There we go, he likes about being a Yinglet.
Well, very recently, there was a moment that he was able to catch a bug he wouldn't be able to previously. So that was a bit of a win. But aside from that, not a whole lot. He appreciates the situation that his unusual situation has allowed him to kind of help his friends and countrymen get a better life and everything. So he's very thankful that in some way he was able to make this work for the people he cares about. But pretty much nothing else at this moment. Part of it is, still kind of getting used to it. Part of it is he liked being human and a male. But also, I had a good point. Yeah, he has a type of personality that he's not going to let himself think anything positive about it without a fight. We're actually also in this next few pages going to be getting much more of an idea of who Casa Nicole is as a person, and was before. And
sounds like you said Casa Nicole. I was like, who's Casa Nicole? Sounded like a model. Yeah, Casa Nicole. Let's see here. Sorry, there would be more questions.
Oh wait, one that just got answered. Tewam asks, "What about that stripper he had a crush on at the start of the comic?"
Oh dear.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing her again.
Yep.
He still likes her, but obviously doesn't exactly want her to see him as a tiny lady creature. But we are going to be seeing more of Guinea.
Guinea. Oh, I didn't realize that's how it was said. I've learned a thing. At least she's not a pig. Also as a tangent, which will happen more and more as the night goes on. I'm trying to keep it under control, however. I personally have no idea what pronouns to use when I talk about casts, so I generally try to avoid using pronouns altogether. Because
so I can
personally
elaborate on that.
I mean, I know there's the canon answer, but with me, my own personal feeling. But yeah, keep going.
I kind of do that myself, just because if I settle on one particular pronoun, then it's going to be kind of like authoritative. But I switch back and forth a lot depending on how I'm talking about the character. Like Cass as the person underneath, like the soul, the history of this person. I just definitely still, at least at this point in the story, call him a he. But if I'm talking about Cass in relation to specific, Yinglet body and societal function and everything, then I might use she. But even now, like if I'm talking about him and his friend group, he still thinks of himself as he. They're still getting over the shock that maybe he's not and trying to internalize that. But also, there's no right or wrong pronoun for Cass, because that's part of Cass's problem right now. He's kind of in between existences and has no idea just what this thing that he is. And again, I'm using he there because I'm talking about the person, like the male human that just experienced this. So really, I see people use he, she, both perfectly valid.
Glizzy Guzzler says, question. As a creative writer, a long timeline is very fun to make. My question is, how far in the Oops future have you written? Like how far out? Like years? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I misunderstood the question. How far in the future is Oops? I think.
Oh, wait, is that the question?
I think so. Or how far in the future have you written? I'm not quite. Like, how much do you have planned out?
Well, I can answer one of those. How far do I have them planned out? Basically, well, those other projects that never took off, I did a huge amount of writing. Like, I had written like dozens of scripts and just ideas of things that would happen later. But this one, I'm doing that sort of combination thing I was talking about. Okay, yeah, how much planned out? Well, all of the major points of the story, those anchor points that I'm using to kind of guide the plot along, those are like, I already know the exact sequence of major events that will happen, and like all the way into the ending. I know how this thing ends and like all those points we got to hit to get there. But I leave the in-betweens of those just completely open, because I might have better ideas along the way. And some of those changes I've made might open up different story routes. It's kind of like if you were doing some, I don't know, not necessarily, maybe kind of, let's think about it as mountain climbing. There's these big red flags that are posted, every mile or two, so that you're aware of the path that it takes. And between those points, you can take any way you want to get to them. Like, hey, maybe you like the look of this place. You just want to hang out here for a while before moving on. but eventually you'll get back to that.
You do it like a D&D campaign.
Route.
Yeah,
Kind of like that too.
Yeah,
There's
milestone
major
method.
Yeah. So that's really what it is. Like I technically have it all plotted out, but I also technically have little of it planned out. It's like if I were just to give you the hard stop, this happens, then this happens, then this happens. That's already done. So now
That's the
I'm
stuff
just
I
leaving
know. But I get surprised. Also, in case the question is like how much longer you've been going to be working on Oops, and this is an answer I always find funny, is about another decade or so. But that's the answer whenever people ask, is there's probably about another decade. That was the answer 4 years ago, is that there's probably about a decade left, and that's the answer now. So that's
pretty much it. Like that's become a response I'm aware of now, that I'm not the only comic creator that thinks this, because we realize just how long it takes to really flesh out all this that we have up in our heads. So it's, I think the common experience is always longer than you plan.
Yeah. Thus, I always say about a decade. Because it just keeps moving along as time itself moves along.
That's what I'm sticking with.
Clarion Klaxon says, we hear quite a bit about Yinglets trying to learn from humans. What do you think humans could stand to learn from Yinglets?
It's right now mainly that Yinglets would have a lot to learn from humans. Humans might learn a few, well, I don't know. Even humans have, more advanced methods of clam bed farming. So right now, that's part of the precarious situation the Yinglets are in. They don't have much to offer that humanity doesn't have that isn't already better. So, yeah, makes it kind of hard to break onto the world stage that way.
Also, as a heads up, Val, I will need to be wrapping it up pretty soon. I've got stuff tomorrow, and I'm recording everything, so.
Oh, yeah, good point.
So, yeah, I'm going to go through here. So, so the question about the you and me meeting, I think you touched on that a little bit, but kind of the full quick story is I was doing a quest comic thing on different, like a forum quest thing. I actually had been introduced to how to play this by a friend. I liked Yinglets. I wanted to use a Yinglet character in mine. So I messaged Val asking for permission. Kind of mentioned some things that we had common interest. We got talking after that, and it kind of hit off. Kind of naturally went off from there. Silly Zealot, a few people says they haven't seen my comic in a while. How's it going? Well, it's on hiatus still. I like to get back to it, but I've been struggling with pretty consistent depression the last couple of years. I'm on medication and everything, so it could have been worse than it was, but still, it's been a lot of stress, a lot of stuff going on. I pulled out of my depression about ironically a week before surgery. So it's like, oh, I'm going to have energy and interest, and surgery happens, and now I don't have as much energy anymore. So I do plan to get back to it soon. I really, really want to tell more stories in that universe. Let's see if I missed anything else.
Oh, yes. Rollosaurus. I am a 40K fan. I do love me some Spacemans.
Yep. Culture's better.
But no, the Heavenly Veil is not the Eye of Terror.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. Val really, really, really likes 40K. Really likes 40K. Doesn't play it, but really, plays the games. Let me see here. Actually looking for the question. Somebody said, oh, Alderane wants to know how many days from the transformation are we out now? Like, I guess so. How many days has it happened?
Yeah, I want to say probably like just a little more than half a month.
Okay. a bit over a fortnight. Oh,
Sounds about right.
General Irrelevant says, will you host a Valsalia-based D&D session at some event or something for us to enjoy? Oh, you said that could be fun. You're DMing this entire thing on a regular. So yeah, the Yinglet thing is not. So that is a fan thing. It's not we have to make the disclaimer that it's not an official representation of Yinglets. Val worked with it a bit, but there's
like there have been fan attempts that I wanted to give info for, so I gave him suggestions, gave him an idea of what the stats would be. But those are for a bunch of different systems. I can't really say.
Beast World. We're going to be doing one with Beast World. That'll be the closest, I think, to an official system, right? Because that's going to be published and available once their RPG book is done.
Yeah, it's kind of like what Yao was saying, that Yao's mentioned Yinglets and people think they're from D&D. I think they give off that kind of goblin kobold sort of vibe that you would definitely see in those types of settings. And I mean, a big part of their whole concept was to be something like that in this sort of, in this original setting. But we are doing some collaborated stuff with Delver's Guide. And I believe the first major expansion or, race expansion or addendum they're going to be making is actually going to be Yinglets.
Yeah, officially.
So we working with them. Right. And I'm going to make sure that Yinglets are represented. I mean, they'll understand how to translate them into stats and skills the best. And I'll be making sure that, the experience of playing one, of creating one, and, just the general gameplay feel, skills, and stuff like that, I'll make sure this is absolutely the, official, the best kind of experience you can get. I mean, there's going to be a random mutation table.
Actually,
among other things. So, yeah.
There's something I do need to mention that I think I've mentioned it in passing to Val, but so yeah, I personally developed a long-term plan strategy to help Val become a multimillionaire. Literally, that's my plan. But like merchandising and everything. But one of the steps eventually will be I want to have a Yinglet campaign guide or an Out of Placers campaign guide put together. This will be a few years down the road, because right now, especially, there's not a lot in the world that we can talk about at the moment, but that is something that will be happening. It'll be a few years, but in the meantime, the Delver's Guide thing will have some official stuff to use before that happens.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's going to be a project.
We got time.
Let's see here. I'm looking at some questions. Also, a D&D session one-shot thing could be an interesting thing to think of. Like, I don't know. I'd have to work the logistics of that out. That is an idea. Can't make any promises, but I'll figure out something.
Yeah, above all else, comic production and getting Patreon stuff done, and that's always got to take priority. And basically anything after that is, only if I have time for it after comic pages and Patreon stuff.
Yep. This is why I am the Val Wrangler. Second Zing says, Second Zing, how do you keep yourself motivated to keep writing your comic?
Yeah, it's the other comics I tried. It might have just been because I was too early on in my drawing, and so I was taking a lot of time going over the same figures, and page production was so slow. That could have been why I kind of burned out on it, but honestly, I think the much bigger aspect of it is when you have a project that you're working on or planning to work on for such a long time, you really, really have to put some things in there that make it satisfying and fun for you personally as a creator to just keep coming back to day after day. And that was originally why I just thought about adding the transformational element, since that's something I think would be fun in a story. So yeah, for me, it was mainly uh, creating a setting full of things, like a story setting and everything that I personally would want to see in other works. And I will say, though, going full time with Patreon really changes things. I will say, beware of turning a hobby into your source of income, because that can kind of grind you down and take away the joy from it. But I've managed to hold on to that. And also, you need to get out at least 3 pages a month or you'll get evicted is a pretty solid motivator, no matter how you're feeling when you're, wake up in the morning. So, yeah, it's a combination of making this a project that I myself have fun making. And, well, also there's a huge issue of the people. I mean, the comments that I see coming in, the responses to them, like that's what I live for, posting a page and seeing what the reactions to it are, and how the people on 4chan react differently to the people on Fur Affinity. It's just
Val literally screenshots reactions sometimes. Fun note: some people have through managed to guess some stuff. Not saying who, where, or whenever, but anytime someone does get something right, Val screenshots that too and saves it. It's pretty funny.
Oh yeah, so that I can post it and say, yeah, 5 years ago, this person had the right idea about what was going on here with barely any evidence to go on, but they had it.
Also,
and yeah, I love it when somebody just manages to pick up all the breadcrumbs that I've scattered all over the place and manage to make the proper conclusion without, I haven't put enough breadcrumbs to make a solid answer to just anything. So when somebody gets it, yeah, makes me feel motivated.
I recommend people reread the comic every few months. I've read it 4 or 5 times now, and even knowing the stuff I know, there's always new things I pick up. It's crazy how, like, I tell people that there's like multiple layers to every page. It's not literally every page, but most of them have like 2, 3, 4, or 5 layers going on. I think we have probably, we're going long, maybe time for a couple more questions. I'll answer. Let's go for I'm Beyond the Pale
I was
here.
thinking that.
Question: as far as Yinglets are being looked down upon but not completely disrespected comparatively to other places in the world, what is the overall disposition, positive or negative relations, of Yinglets to humans and other races of the world?
Well, most Yinglets are, pretty isolationist and see other races as like the ones that are going to come and eat us if we let our guards down for a minute. So, and they're, most Yinglets will only have just, well, their interactions or the place they get ideas of or what humans are usually going to come through stories and hearsay, things like that. So that's another reason that the Valsalian Enclave is kind of unique when it comes to enclaves. But yeah, in general, their Yinglets are kind of fearful and distrustful and a bit. Think of humans as kind of like the ones that are in the way of us taking our place in the world. A lot of that's just the Enclave propaganda, but you don't interact with people. You can just let your imagination go about what they actually are. And humans really just see Yinglets as these, they're just there. Okay, they don't really have much to offer us, so no point in either conquering them or like stealing from them. And so it takes some people like Viracroy to think, okay, if these things continue to, like develop a culture, there's certain things they could be useful at, which, generation or two could have a place in society. But for the most part, they're just critters.
I'm going to go ahead and plug your Picarto. Yeah, picarto.tv/Valsalia. Val's been streaming pretty often now. I know you kind of took a break for a bit, but it's always good if people want to get peeks in on the comic, just kind of hang out. He doesn't do voice on them, but Val's really, really cool.
I do try and chat text if anybody has any questions on those. It's a nice way of breaking up the long drawing hours.
And I guess we'll probably finish off with this question then. Leo Scott says, bit of a question. what are your feelings on this Q&A? And what's the likelihood of others happening in the future?
Well, to be honest, I was surprised when Rapti pointed out that we hadn't actually had one of these. Because, like, I've been on a couple little podcasts, but yeah, I'm not the type to be thinking about like events and merchandising and things like that. I'm just thinking, okay, what's the next page? So, yeah, those, the other people got podcasts visits out of me just because they approached me and asked about it. So, yeah, when I heard, no, we hadn't actually had one here, I obviously had to change that. And yeah, this has been a lot of fun. Voice is getting a little dry, but
Water.
yeah, I think we should definitely do this kind of thing more often.
Let's say this. We have 37 people still listening, and we're over 3 hours in. There's a lot of interest here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, definitely doing this again then.
Yeah, this gives me some ideas. Nothing official, but so I do want to mention that this Q&A thing was, like almost all of my ideas, something that I came up with when I was waking up. Like an initial hour in the morning before my ADHD meds have kicked in and my brain is a goofy, soupy mess. It's where all my best ideas come from. Yeah. It's like, oh, we haven't done this. Also, this might explain some things to people who've read my comic. A lot of my comic pages ideas come from that. That's kind of why it has that weird, surreal feeling. But yeah, decided to go ahead and do one of these. Told Val earlier this week. I think I told you. I don't know if I asked you. But yeah, it's like, hey, we got to do something.
Yeah, you
like
told
this.
me you had the idea, asked what I thought about it, and I was surprised that we hadn't already. It just felt like it because I'd done, some appearances on other podcast things. But yeah, this is like my own comic community here. You should definitely be doing stuff like this.
Second, let me grab you the link because, hold on one moment. The issue is that, fun story, Google kind of messed up they canceled my old Google account, which had my URL or my domain names on them, but it didn't actually fully cancel, so I basically just can't access my domain names to manage them, so I lost otissa.com. But my person who's hosting my server gave me another URL to use, which I'm looking up right now as we speak. Stretching out for time. Okay, one moment. Here we go. I'll link to the first page. Sorry, gotta turn this back on here.
Oh yeah, thanks to all the people who did the art during the stream. You properly distracted me, and it's not all that hard to get my train. Oh wait, sorry. I was just saying, thanks to all the people who put out art on this stream. I was not expecting that, but yeah, did a good job of totally destroying my train of thought. Thank you.
Abby says Ben says I'm a call center veteran. Yeah, 8 years working call center. Most of that was as a customer loyalty / retention rep, which at that business mainly meant people would call in, wanting to cancel cell service, and I would figure out why they wanted to cancel, essentially become friends with them, fix their problems, get that taken care of, and do that within like 8 minutes. And again, I did several years of that. Possibly one of the most important skills I've developed as an artist was learning customer service. Yeah.
It is weirdly important for artists, yeah.
Customer service and business management. If anyone out here wants to become an artist, like outside of being a hobby, seriously, look into business management courses, look into customer service stuff. Those are the most important things you can study. Art, you can learn on your own pace, but like when it comes to stuff like taxes and like expenses and managing things, it's the schooling definitely helps. Not that I've gone to school. I mean, I'm picking this all up on the fly, but looks like everything is good. So,
Yeah, I think we can call that a success.
all right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for the Out of Placers, Lost Argonian Mated, Valsalia podcast. We could do podcast, but Q&A session. You know, I want to personally thank you and say, we love all of you because you're amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
You're all valid, and no matter how things may be feeling right now, stuff. I mean, we got the comic to look to, and it'll keep
I
coming.
live in Texas. I'm above all one who knows the value of having something to distract from daily life going on. But yeah,
Oh,
however
thank
tough
you.
it's going on, us creators here, we're going through the same life as you and just hoping to give you something nice at the end of the day.
And remember, everyone you talk to, everyone you guys talk to, and everything can help. Every just good words to people, help someone stay, and that helps out a lot. But
That's true. Sometimes more than you think. A lot of times more than you think.
all right, well, I will talk to you guys later. Anything you have to say to finish out, pal?
No, I think everything's been said. This was a lot of fun. So yeah, as soon as my throat heals up, and we'll think about next time we'll do this. Yeah,
All
we
right.
didn't even start talking about Lust Argonian Mated.
Oh yeah, that one.
Well, there's not exactly a lot of lore when it comes to that, and I still like will step back after working on a page and just have to think to myself, am I really doing this? What is this? How did I come to do this? This is just, well, it's a lot of dumb fun. It's just, yeah, no burdens for a plot. It can just be as stupid as I want. But yeah, no. Yeah, basically general irrelevant. That's
pretty much it.
that's what it's been.
It's been a lot of
All
that
right.
and a lot of this here too. Just rock. But all right, again, you guys take care. Love all of you, and have a good day.
Yeah. Whenever the next time is, we'll see you then.